Chapter 2008. The Divine Universe Golden Stone that Qin Yun released, under the control of Nether Sun power, floated in the chaotic space-time. With Qin Yun's current strength, using his Nether Sun power, he can completely imprison the Divine Universe Golden Stone and prevent it from running around. 2 days passed, and suddenly a ball of white light appeared. The Space Xian ant is formed from a ball of white light. It appeared. Ling Yun shouted excitedly. The Space Xian ant has appeared. It's so big. So big. Could it be an ant queen? Qin Yun said in shock. Ant queen? Ling Yun shouted in alarm. Xiao Yun, can you capture the ant queen? How many queens do the spatial Xian ants have? There are more queens, but actually every spatial Xian ant can become an ant queen. It's just that those space Xian ants don't have enough courage to leave their nest. Qin Yun said, after leaving the nest, the spatial Xian ants will drift alone. When they find enough energy to devour, they will be able to produce a large amount of space. Space Xian ants. Ling Yun said, Xiao Yun, the space Xian ants live in the dark space. Does this place belong to the dark space? Qin Yun shook his head and said, no. This is only the edge of the dark space. The space Xian ants should have sensed the energy of the Divine Universe Golden Stone, so they came from the dark space. Space Xian ant is not a bug. It is just a name. It is mainly formed from special space energy. Because their way of life is somewhat like ants, they are called space Xian ants. There's a large white ball of light in front of them. It is slowly floating over. After approaching the Divine Universe Golden Stone, it suddenly accelerated as if it is very excited. Qin Yun quickly stored the Divine Universe Golden Stone. The ball of light seems to be very angry. It emitted a burst of white light. Bring me to the sacred desolate, and that Divine Universe Golden Stone is yours, Qin Yun said. He has a lot of Divine Universe Golden Stones. Using one to leave this place is very cost-effective for him. The ball of light did not respond. Qin Yun said with a frown, is this really an ant queen? Why can't she communicate with others? Yun you're a spirit body. You communicate with her. Ling Yun immediately communicated with the space Xian ant and said, Xiao Yun, she said she wants two. Tell her that I only have one. Qin Yun's face is filled with amazement. He said with a smile, this little ant queen actually knows how to bargain. She said that she is very hungry right now. She needs to eat 2 pills to have enough energy to open the spatial passage and take you to the sacred desolate. Ling Yun said again, Xiao Yun, give her 2 pills. What if she doesn't bring me to sacred desolate after eating 2 pills? Qin Yun said, I don't think she would lie. Ling Yun said, she's really hungry. All right. Qin Yun nodded and took out 2 Divine Universe Golden Stones. Seeing the 2 Divine Universe Golden Stones, the white ball of light seemed to be very excited. Then it wrapped around the 2 Divine Universe Golden Stones. Ling Yun said, she needs to absorb for a period of time. Once she has enough power, she can take you to the sacred desolate. Qin Yun said with a smile, I will wait for her. Ling Yun smiled and said, Xiao Yun, there are so many Divine Universe Gold Stones in the 9 Suns Royal Race's chest. Do many people know about this chest? This is the supreme treasure of the 9 Suns Royal family. This chest was left behind by the 9 Suns Royal Race's clan emperor to revive the 9 Suns Royal Race. It was handed over to the Dragon Race for safekeeping. I did not expect that it would fall into the hands of the immortal, desolate Dragon Emperor. Qin Yun said with mischievous smile, in the end, it is still mine. Strictly speaking, it should be Xiao Shi's. Do you think she will ask you for it? Ling Yun said with a smile, if she wanted it back, she would have asked me for it a long time ago. Qin Yun said, Xiao Shi said that she wants to find a person. That person is you. She wants to find the 9 Sun Divine Spirit and 9 Yin Divine Spirit from you, as well as the 9 Desolate Divine Saber. Why is she looking for these things? Ling Yun said, to create the sun. Her memory is not complete, so she doesn't know that the 9 Sun Divine Spirit and 9 Yin Divine Spirit are mine. Qin Yun said with a smile, moreover, the 9 desolate divine saber, and I have a very deep relationship. I just don't know what is inside the bloodline heavenly rune box. Ling Yin is very expectant. 2 days later, the little ant queen is finally full. The white light on her body became even more intense. Ling Yin has suddenly said to Qin Yun, Xiao Yun, she knows that you have a lot of divine universe golden stones. She can eavesdrop on our mental communication. What? Qin Yun said in shock. She can eavesdrop on our mental communication. Indeed, she said that this is her special ability. It is also because of this that she doesn't get along with others and wandered alone. Ling Yun is said with smile. She wants to follow you. Qin Yun thought about it. He feels that having a space Xian Ant Queen following him is also very good. He said, Yin if I cultivate you into a spirit in the future, maybe you can fuse with this little ant queen. All right. Ling Yin said with smile. I will have spatial power at that time. Then ask her if she is willing to fuse with you or not. Qin Yun said. After Ling Yin asked, the white light ball suddenly trembled. Qin Yun said with frown. She is not willing. So she is angry? Ling Yin very happily said. No, she said she is very willing. I said that I am a great beauty, and she is willing. It seems like this little ant queen, and you are birds of a feather. Qin Yun shook his head with smile and said, Let her lead the way. I need to hurry to the sacred desolate. A sun seed has descended into the sacred desolate. He wants to obtain it. He does not wish for the sun seed to fall into the hands of the heavenly, law divine realm. After the space Xian Ant is full, it can indeed release a very strong power and open a spatial passage. Qin Yun is now wrapped up by the space Xian Ant and entered the spatial passage. Not long after, Qin Yun appeared in a mountain forest. The space Xian Ant that turned into a ball of white light was also placed into the 9 Sun Divine Spirit by Qin Yun. Xiao Yun, you have come to the sacred desolate. Can you open the 6th pearl of the 9 Sun Divine Spirit? Ling Yin asked. You seem to have said before that you would have to go to the sacred desolate to open another one. Qin Yun looked at his 9 Sun Divine Spirit and said, The seal was placed by Mog. Back then, Mog borrowed the power of the Heavenly Law pawn shop to place the seal. It is very difficult to break. Why did she seal the 9 pearls? Ling Yun asked. She must be worried that after some things come out, I and Sister Kiru won't be able to control them. Qin Yun released his mental power to try to open the 6th pearl. Also, it is to prevent someone from breaking it and taking away the things inside. The pearls behind the 9 Sun Divine Spirit are even more difficult to open. Qin Yun released formidable mental power and entered the 6th pearl. After breaking through a barrier, his soul suddenly felt a stabbing pain. Can't open it? Ling Yun said. It can be opened. Very strange. Qin Yun said with some joy. After I open the barrier of the 6th pearl, I can feel a very powerful mental power. I can absorb that kind of mental power. Is this the thing inside the 6th pearl? Ling Yin is somewhat disappointed. Not at all. I want to absorb and refine that mental power and strengthen my mind to a certain level. Only then can I completely break through the barrier of the 6th pearl. Qin Yun said in pleasant surprise. The thing inside the 6th pearl must require very powerful mental power to control. Ling Yin is now also filled with anticipation. She said with a smile, Is that why it can provide energy to strengthen your mind and soul? It seems like the thing inside is very extraordinary. What could it be? I still don't know. Qin Yun began absorbing the mental power inside the 6th pearl to strengthen his mind and soul. He said with a smile, I should be able to absorb and refine it in about a month. After arriving at Sacred Desolate, Qin Yun first took out the Devil Mirror and tested it. The Devil Mirror's formation base is inside the Divine Inscription Mountain. The Divine Inscription Mountain has already arrived at Sacred Desolate. However, Qin Yun's Devil Mirror did not have any effect. It seems like Sacred Desolate's space law has changed. Qin Yun said, Changed? Didn't the space god pass you a universal space rune? I remember that it is used on the Devil Mirror's formation base. Ling Yun'er said, "Indeed, but now that the space law has evolved, the space god should not be able to interfere. The talisman I asked the door deity to give to the space god is a special kind of communication talisman. It can be used to communicate through the sun. Only the two of us know how to use it." Ling Yun'er said, "Xiao Yun, how do you contact Sister Kiru and others?" Qin Yun looked at the three suns in the sky and said, "Let's wait for night. The soul-chasing talisman cannot track their soul fluctuation. It seems like they're very far away from me. Only when their soul fluctuation reaches me will I be able to track them." Qin Yun took out the large golden devil horn and tried to contact Evil God, but failed. He looked at the large golden devil horn in his hand and said with sigh, "Only by going to Divine Desolate can I contact Evil God. What about the Star God altar?" Ling Yun'er asked. "I don't think it can be used. I will need to discuss with the space god to know the specifics." Qin Yun said with a frown, "That door god said that a large number of godly monarch palaces have descended into the sacred desolate. There's the love god altar inside. I suspect that the love god altar rules over the entire sacred desolate. Only love god altar's passage can be opened. Sacred desolate is much more formidable than immortal desolate. The energy obtained from offering sacrifices in sacred desolate is even greater. Love God controls all the sacrificial resources in sacred desolate. It means that her strength will advance by leaps and bounds in the near future." Qin Yun floated high in the sky, looked all around, and said, "The Nine Suns' sacred power here is rather weak. It is not a flourishing area of sacred desolate." He entered the heaven-leaping shuttle and tried to control it to travel through space. It failed. Qin Yun sighed and said, "This kind of spatial seal is truly terrifying. The heavenly Tao is already dead. The heavenly Tao divine domain is interfering with the operation of many heavenly domains." Ling Yun'er said with smile, "Xiao Yun, there is still the little queen ant." Qin Yun laughed and said, "I wonder how long the two divine universe golden stones I gave her will last." While speaking, he released the little queen ant. A huge white ball of light suddenly appeared in the main control room. Qin Yun looked at the little queen ant and said, "Any spatial power under the heavenly Tao is based on the operation of dark space. Space Xian ants can ignore any spatial law." Qin Yun controlled the heaven-leaping shuttle to absorb the energy released by the little queen ant and began to travel through space. Chapter 2009. According to his own senses, Qin Yun determined which direction the Nine Suns' sacred power is denser and then flew towards that direction. Because places with dense Nine Suns' sacred power have more people gathered, he can find people to ask about the situation in sacred desolate. What surprised him was that he had stumbled upon a sun altar by accident. Seeing that sun altar, he did not immediately fly over. That sun altar has become very big. It is more than 3,000 feet tall. Its entire body is flickering with light. It looks like a huge mountain pyramid. The reason why Yin did not fly over is because this sun altar is in the middle of a city. Build a sun altar built in the middle of a city must be controlled by a powerful faction. Xiao Yin, how did the sun altar become so big? And it looks very strong. Ling Yun'er said in shock. Sun altar has been remodeled by the heavenly law divine domain. Qin Yun said with sneer, "No matter what it turns into, this altar will definitely be mine." 9 sun altars, one in 9 nether realms floating cloud city, one in Guanghan Palace became the Star God altar. Another 20th floor of Qin Yun's Floating Clouds Pagoda has also been remodeled into the Star God altar. The remaining 6 are in the hands of the 6 Nine Sun sects. Spirit Yun'er said, "Xiao Yun, where did these sun altars come from?" The 9 sun altars came from inside the 9 suns. They were originally used to connect the 9 sun sects with the sun, but later on the heavenly law divine domain cut off the connection, causing the 9 sun sects to lose contact with the sun. Qin Yun said, "Those 8 9 sun sect betrayed the 9 suns and joined the heavenly law divine domain." Yin was once the sect master of a nine-sun sect. Because he refused to submit to the heavenly law, divine domain, he was destroyed by the other 8 nine-sun sects. Fortunately, he had kept that altar in the nine nether realm. He placed the altar in the nine nether realm mainly because he hoped to be able to communicate with the nine suns through the special space of the nine nether realm. After Ling Yun heard about the sun altar, she angrily cursed the other 8 nine-sun sects. Qin Yun controlled the heaven-leaping shuttle to land on the ground and said, "For the sun altar to be located here and even build a city to attract a large number of sacred desolate experts, it is definitely not simple." He put on a simple disguise and disguised himself as a middle-aged man in dire straits. Wearing a bamboo hat, he walked towards the city. When he arrived at the city gate, he saw the plaque on the gate and was secretly surprised. 6 Divine King Cities? This city was called the 6 Divine King Cities. Entering the city wasn't very strict, only needing to buy a pass. The price wasn't cheap, needing 5 sun divine crystals. Qin Yin had dozens of them, enough to buy an entry pass. The city's barrier was very strong. Qin Yin did not wish to barge in to prevent himself from stirring up trouble. Although he was very powerful in Immortal Desolate, he was very weak in Sacred Desolate. At Sacred Desolate, he was just a little saint. Saint Human is a very powerful existence in the Immortal Desolate, a peak existence. But in a place like the Sacred Desolate, it was more common. Dang, however, there were many immortal kings and immortal emperors in the Sacred Wilderness, so sages were not the weakest. Currently, there are only 3 realms in the sacred space: Sage Realm, Great Sage Realm, and Quintessential Sage Realm. Qin Yun is now a sage. His saint power needs to contain 3 kinds of sacred splendor to reach late-stage Sage Realm. He released saint power and condensed it in his palm. It only has a thin layer of sacred splendor. It is early-stage Sage Realm. Qin Yun obtained the entry pass and smoothly entered the 6 Divine King Cities. After entering the city, he realized why it was called the 6 Divine King Cities. Because this city was the city where the new God King came to Sacred Desolate. Moreover, the sun altar in the middle of the city was called the God King altar. Every once in a while, a sacrifice would be made to the God King. After the sacrifice, a lot of divine liquid would descend from the sky. The current God King is the Love God. Love God now calls herself the Sun God. Although she doesn't have a God position, no one dares to question her. Qin Yin looked at the sun altar and sneered at her heart. Love God. The God position in your hand should be the Love God position, right? Only with a God position can one accept the sacrifice. Spirit Yun Yuner said, Xiao Yun, how awesome is the Love God? Yin said, the Love God is a person who can control other people's emotions. Her mental power is very strong. Don't tell me you are being controlled by her. That's why you trust her? No. She has always been my friend. I have never been controlled by her. I only trust her, just like how I trust Sister Kuru and the others. Qin Yun's eyes flashed with coldness. He said in his heart, I never expected that she would betray me. 6 Divine King Cities are very lively. Qin Yun walked on the street and saw that most of the people are immortal kings. Immortal emperors and saints are very few. After all, those with high cultivation are either in seclusion or searching for resources. Also, only those youngsters with high cultivation of great powers are idling around. Qin Yun strolled around the 6 Divine King Cities once, and then checked into an ordinary inn. He entered the inn to rest and wait for night to descend. Night too late. Heaven. Countless stars are flickering in the sky. A river of stars traversed the entire night sky. Qin Yun stood beside the bed and looked at the night sky. He said with frown, the moon has not appeared. Could it be that the mother moon is hidden? It seems like the Love God already knows that the mother moon has appeared. The mother moon really needs to be hidden. He took out many soul-chasing talismans, but none of them showed any reaction. He can only helplessly put them away. Deep night. Qin Yun is sitting on the bed, closing his eyes to rest, calming his heart to sense. He had strolled around the city in order to find out what was special about this city, because he knows that the sun altar will not randomly choose a place to descend. To the sun altar descended here. Moreover, it brought along a very large city with a perfect and powerful barrier. Qin Yun is puzzled because the nine sun sacred power in this area is not very dense, and there are no resources nearby. He feels that there must be a reason why the sun altar would descend here. Deep night, the six divine king cities are very quiet. Qin Yun released formidable mental power and penetrated into the ground to sense the situation in the depths of the earth. More than an hour later, he opened his eyes and said with frown, "There's a very strong barrier under the earth." "Xiaoyan, what did you discover?" Ling Yun said, "Could it be that there is something sealed under the six divine king cities?" Yin said, "When my mental power touched the barrier, it bounced back. I'll go investigate again. This time, if I'm more careful, I won't be bounced back." He tried again, and this time, the mental power he released was even stronger. In just an hour, the mental power he released penetrated the ground and wandered near the barrier. After a serious investigation, Qin Yun's face suddenly revealed a smile. He retracted his mental power and said with a smile, "I have to say, these fellows from the heavenly law divine realm are truly capable. They found the sun seed so quickly." Ling Yun said in pleasant surprise, "Xiao Yun, they found the sun seed, but they can't take it away, right?" Yin said with a smile, "It's not easy to take away the sun seed. I was once a palace king of the Nine Yang Divine Palace, so I understand this thing the best. They can't take it away, so they guard here and don't allow anyone else to take it away. These are the six cities of the Divine King. When you were strolling around the city during the day, someone said that there are a total of 9 Divine King cities. Could it be that the 9 sun seeds are all under the Divine King cities?" Ling Yun chuckled and said, "That's great. This way, you don't have to look everywhere." Yin said, "I want to quietly take away the sun seed. Otherwise, once they discover it, they will definitely strengthen their defense." "Xiao Yun, why can't they take away the sun seed? What is the sun seed like?" Ling Yun asked. "I have never seen a sun seed before, but according to my experience with the Sun Research Institute, the sun seed should be split from the core of the sun. It's very hot and very powerful. There should be sun totem and sun heavenly rune." Qin Yun said, "There must be divine universe golden stone inside." Ling Yun said, "Then how can we take it away?" Qin Yun said with a smile, "I have the Sun Emperor inscription spirit. If I can take it away smoothly, I just need to install the 9 sun divine spirit. The difficult part is to take it away quietly and then conveniently dismantle this divine king altar." Ling Yun giggled and said, "The sun altar has been renamed the Divine King altar. You are the true Divine King. This altar belongs to you." At night, Qin Yun used the mysterious penetration divine ability and drilled into the ground. He wants to approach the barrier and investigate the situation. Not long after, he arrived near the barrier. When he saw the barrier, he immediately jumped up, as if he has encountered something very scary. Return when he arrived at the inn on the surface. Qin Yun took a deep breath of cold air. He is still in a state of shock inside. It's actually the heavenly God seal restriction. What is the heavenly God seal restriction? A seal set up by the heavenly Tao. It seems like after the sun seed fell into the sacred desolate, the heavenly Tao and heavenly rules activated and sealed this kind of heaven-defying thing. Qin Yun's tone was grave as he said, "The sun must have violated the heavenly rules to give birth to the sun seed, so it was suppressed by the heavenly God seal restriction." Ling Yun said, "Then the heavenly law divine domain is also unable to take it away?" Qin Yun nodded and said, "They understand the heavenly God seal restriction better than me. There are a few powerful fellows in the heavenly law divine domain who have been suppressed by the heavenly God seal restriction before. They are unable to take away the sun seed, but they are thinking of ways to absorb its energy." "Xiao Yun, do you have a way to break the heavenly God seal restriction?" Ling Yun asked. Qin Yun suddenly revealed a smile and said, I do have a way to break it. I have been suppressed by this thing twice, and each time it was stronger than the last, but I broke it every time. Not only can I break it, I can also see through the heavenly God seal restriction and imitate it. However, it's difficult to break through without making a sound. Chimu said, Yin only wanted to quietly take away the sun seed, and then find an opportunity to tear down the altar and take it away. Boom! The earth suddenly shook and exploded with a loud sound. Qin. Chapter 2010. Qin Yun thought that the purpose of this city was to hide the sun seed and conveniently absorb its power and then sacrifice it through the altar. Now that he saw powerful beasts attacking the city, he immediately understood that the main purpose of the city walls and barriers is to defend against beast attacks. Xiao Yun, when we enter the city, it seems like there is something probing for human transformed beasts. It seems like there is a group of beasts trying to attack the city. Ling Yuner said. Qin Yun nodded and said, I will go out and take a look. These beasts must be coming for the sun seed. People inside the city are panicking because the activity outside has been magnified. Qin Yun walked on the street and saw many people have deathly pale complexion. They're mainly scared by the pressure outside the city. Most of the divine kings are immortals. It is normal for them to not be able to withstand the pressure. Not to mention immortals. Even saints are scared and don't dare to approach the city wall. The entire 6 divine king cities are unceasingly trembling. All kinds of rumbling, trembling sound burst out one after another. Outside the tall and thick city wall, from time to time intense light beams shot into the night sky. There are many beasts attacking the city. Qin Yun said in amazement. Could it be that these beasts are being led by the sun to attack the city? The gates of the 6 divine king cities are tightly shut. It is not easy to go out. People inside the city are very worried that the 6 divine king cities will be breached. Many people are walking towards the sun altar at the center of the city. Only Qin Yun and a few people are rushing towards the city wall. Beside Qin Yun, there's a petite old man. When this old man rushed towards the city gate, his expression is very cold and calm. This gray-clothed short old man noticed that Qin Yun is behind him. He saw that Qin Yun is not afraid of the imposing aura of those powerful beasts and is secretly startled. Youngster, you should go to the center of the city and hide properly, the gray-clothed old man said. Senior, why are you running over there? Qin Yun asked with a smile. I just want to see what kind of beasts are attacking the 6 divine king cities, the gray-clothed old man said with a smile. Youngster, it seems like you are quite courageous. You are not afraid at all. I also want to see the situation of those beasts attacking the city. It must be very spectacular. Qin Yun said with an indifferent smile and followed behind the old man. Not long after, Qin Yun and the old man jumped onto the city wall. When they arrived at the top of the city wall, they saw a large group of giant golden tigers with bodies as large as elephants. Their bodies were emitting rays of light that resembled the sun. This group of giant tigers was densely packed, numbering tens of thousands. The golden tigers at the very front were the largest. They were tens of meters long and had huge horns on their heads. Hundreds of these giant golden tigers were madly attacking the city gates and city walls with the giant horns on their heads. The old man frowned and said, It's from the divine tiger, sacred land. To be able to command so many tigers, it should only be the sacred tiger king. That is a very strong sun rune beast. When the God King's 6 cities were under attack, they could only close the gates and activate the defensive barriers. There was no way to chase away the tens of thousands of sacred tiger army. The gray-clothed old man is very calm. He looked at the shocking scene of tens of thousands of tigers attacking the city and said to Qin Yun, The defense of the 6 divine king cities is very strong. These tigers can't break it. Don't worry and watch. Qin Yun suddenly sensed that the gigantic sun altar in the center of the city was emitting a spatial fluctuation. He turned his head and saw that the sun altar is flickering with intense multicolored light. Formidable divine power is being transmitted to the sun altar. Then, through the sun altar, It will strengthen the city's great formation. The gray-clothed old man saw the sun altar releasing divine power and immediately felt relieved. He said with smile, I spent quite a few divine crystals to enter the city. If I can't defend this city, I will have to go to another God King city. Although God King city's defense is very strong, many people don't believe that it can be defended. Therefore, they all gathered near the sun altar. The divine power released by the sun altar is very strong. This divine power is transmitted from the divine desolate. Does God King city not have any helpers? Qin Yun said, Don't tell me they don't want to beat back these tigers. The gray-clothed old man shook his head and said, Youngster, you don't know. Not only these tigers are very hard to kill, they're also not afraid of death. Because after these tigers die, their souls will immediately enter the 9 nether realm, and then return to the divine tiger sacred land through a special passage there. Earth rebirth. So that's how it is. Qin Yun is secretly happy. The 9 nether realm has a connection with the sacred desolate. It means that the netherworld great emperor has already begun to control the 9 nether realm. Qin Yun looked at the large door and said to the old man with a smile, Senior, why don't we join hands and blast that door open? Are you crazy? The gray-clothed old man is startled. Then he said with a smile, Youngster, you really know how to joke. Qin Yun said with faint smile, I am not joking. There are more than 10 very strong great saints guarding that door. You lure them away, I will attack the door. The gray-clothed old man saw Qin Yun's serious expression and said with frown, Why are you doing this? Why should I go crazy with you? What's in it for us? Senior, don't tell me you don't want to see the power of the God King altar. If you help me, I will give you 10 sun God crystals. Qin Yun said, You look down on people too much. You want to bribe me with just 10 sun God crystals? The old man shook his head and said with a smile, Senior, you should be a hunter, right? Qin Yun looked at the old man's gray clothes. It is made from beast skin. There are also many ornaments on the old man's body. They are all made from beast teeth. Some hunters like to make ornaments out of the powerful beasts they hunt. The old man said, Youngster, you can tell that I am a great saint. I am an old hunter. My concealment ability is very good. Qin Yun suddenly took out a several-meter-long, huge tooth and said with a smile, You should know what this is, right? When the old man saw the huge golden dragon tooth, he immediately opened his eyes wide and shouted in shock, Divine dragon tooth. Help me lure away the guy guarding the door, and I will give you this dragon tooth. After Qin Yun finished speaking, he promptly put away the dragon tooth. Divine dragon tooth is very precious to the people of Sacred Desolate. However, Qin Yun has many divine dragon teeth, so it is nothing to him. The gray-clothed old man is a hunter. If he could get his hands on this kind of divine dragon tooth and refine it into a weapon, it would be enough for him to be awe-inspiring for many years. Let's sign soul contract. Although the old man doesn't know why Qin Yun opened the door, he knows that as long as he helps Qin Yun, he will be able to obtain the divine dragon tooth. As for what will happen to the 6 cities, he doesn't care at all. After all, this city is not his. After Qin Yun and the gray-clothed old man signed the soul contract, the old man took out a mask and a light blue hunting bow. After the old man put on the cloak, he suddenly disappeared without a trace. Even his aura has been concealed. This old hunter is truly awesome, Qin Yun said with a mischievous smile. The old man maintained a distance from the dozen or so people guarding the gate. Then he pulled his bow to the fullest and shot out a dozen or so arrows made of energy. Those arrows were like lightning as they struck the dozen or so guards. Those guards are all very powerful great saints. They immediately discovered the location of the gray-clothed old man. Only 10 of them rushed over, 4 of them stayed behind to guard the door. Qin Yun suddenly summoned the Nether Realm Heavenly Lion. Shaolin Nether, you might be killed, but you can be reborn in the 9 Nether Realm. If you see Foster Father there, help me greet him, Qin Yun said. Although the Nether Realm Heavenly Lion is very powerful, it is not enough to deal with 4 great saints. Qin Yun is only early-stage great saint. unless he is late-stage great saint. Only by cultivating to third-level sacred radiance can he contend against those great saints. After the 4 great saints saw the nether realm heavenly lion, they immediately rushed over to attack. Qin also took out the 9 heavens dragon lion cannon. 9 heavens dragon lion cannon has 2-star cannonballs. Boom boom. The 2-star cannonballs hit the city gate. The shockwave immediately destroyed many buildings near the city gate. A wave of scorching hot air immediately rose inside the 6 cities. The power of the 2-star cannonballs is very strong. They destroyed many buildings, but they were still unable to break through the gate. Qin Yun clenched his teeth, cooled down the 9 heavens dragon lion cannon a bit, then inserted the sun-suppressing divine arrow into the cannon. The sun-suppressing divine arrow crazily absorbed the 9 dragon divine universe's power. Break! Qin Yun suddenly sensed many great saints rushing over. There are even a few heavenly saints among them. When the sun-suppressing divine arrow hit the gate, the devoured 9 dragon divine universe's power burst out. Boom! An incomparably loud explosion occurred. The entire 6 cities of the Divine King suddenly shook up and down. More than half of the buildings in the city were destroyed in an instant. The city gate was destroyed by the sun-suppressing divine arrow, and more than half of the city wall was destroyed. The 6 cities' great formation is one with the city wall. After the city wall was destroyed from the inside, the great formation temporarily lost its effect. Qin Yun put away the sun-suppressing divine arrow, then used the light transformation sacred pupil to rush out of the city. The group of great saints rushing oversaw the great formation being destroyed and became extremely terrified. They immediately turned around and flew towards the Divine King altar. At this time, tiger roars resounded. Tens of thousands of sacred tigers majestically rushed towards the Divine King altar. The 6 cities have been breached. The people guarding the city are all from the 9 Sun sects. They know very well why the city was breached. Someone attacked the city gate from the inside and used a very powerful force. Qin Yun is far away from the 6 cities. He is standing on a boulder at the top of a mountain in a mountain forest outside the city. He is looking at the 6 cities in the distance. The battle inside the 6 cities is unceasing. Many people are running away. It has to be said that the sacred tigers from the Divine Tiger Sacred Ground are very terrifying. Human great saints are simply unable to resist them. A gray-clothed old man suddenly appeared behind Qin Yun. Worthy of being a very powerful hunter, you actually knew I was here. Qin Yun turned around to look at the old man and said with a smile, "You are even more powerful. You actually broke through that gate. The thing in your hand is very terrifying." The old man only managed to lure away the great saints for a short while, and the entire city has already fallen. Qin Yun handed over the divine dragon tooth and said with a smile, "It was a pleasure working with you." Chapter 2011. Qin Yun was not surprised to see the Heavenly Armor Guard army appear. The reason why the goddess of love was able to become the new Divine King and build so many Divine King palaces and Divine King altars in the sacred wasteland was obviously because of the natural law divine realm's help. Someone from a natural law divine realm has come. The gray-robed elder was horrified when he saw the Heavenly Armor Guard army. He said, "Young brother, those guys are very powerful. The armor they wear is called the Heavenly Armor. Not only is its defense extremely strong, but attacking their heavenly armor will also injure you." After the Heavenly Armor Guard appeared, the crowd around the sun altar also calmed down. This was because everyone in the sacred wilderness knew how powerful the Heavenly Armor Guards were. They all understood the power of the Heavenly Armor Guards very well. It could be said that Qin Yun was the person who understood heavenly armor the most. He had even created the dermic formulation to suppress heavenly armor. Seeing the Heavenly Armor Guards appear, he was also thinking of a way to help the Sacred Tiger Army fight against the Heavenly Armor Guards. He didn't know why the Sacred Tiger Army was attacking the 6 cities, but attacking the 6 cities would give him a chance to destroy the altar. Qin Yun used the light transformation sacred pupil and rushed to the altar. The 6 cities of the God King had already fallen. Only the altar in the center of the city remained. The other buildings in the city had already collapsed. The people of the 6 divine king cities were currently hiding near the sun altar, hiding within the boundary that the sun altar had released. The sun altar's barrier was very strong, and it wasn't easy to break it. The Sacred Tiger Army also knew that the sun altar had a very strong barrier, so they didn't attack. Instead, they destroyed all the buildings in the city. The Sacred Tiger Army immediately retreated when the Sky Armor Guard Army appeared. They did not clash with the Sky Armor Guard Army head-on. The Sacred Tiger Army clearly knew that the Heavenly Armor Guards were not easy to deal with. As Qin Yun charged over, he also paid attention to the strength of the Heavenly Armor Guards. Most of them were saints. If they were only saints, it would be easy for him to deal with them. Tens of thousands of giant tigers worked very well together. They split into small teams, each with a dozen or so divine tigers. They roamed around God King City and did not clash with the Heavenly Armor Guards. The Heavenly Armor Guard Army only had slightly more than 10,000 people, far fewer than the Sacred Tiger Army. They didn't have any divine weapons, so no matter how strong their attacks were, they couldn't hurt the thick skin of the Sacred Tiger. Moreover, those Sacred Tigers were extremely nimble and could easily dodge. Qin Yun saw how brave and ferocious these Sacred Tigers are. He knows that there's a wise person leading them from a dark. The Divine King's 6 cities had already been reduced to ruins. When Qin Yun approached, he closed his eyes and very seriously sensed the mental fluctuations. He believed that there must be a strategist using mental power to command the Sacred Tiger Army. Before long, Qin Yun sensed a fluctuation that came from high up in the sky. He immediately turned invisible and flew high into the sky. High up in the sky, even if there was a person floating in the air, it would be difficult to see him. Qin Yun flew very high up in the sky and looked down at the ground. The 6 cities were only the size of half a palm. He followed the weak spiritual energy and came to a thick cloud. It was already night time, and with the thick clouds, it was hard to find anything hidden inside. Qin Yun entered the thick cloud and used his heavenly eye to look. He saw a figure. This guy should be the Sacred Tiger in human form. After Qin Yun saw this person, he is startled in his heart because this person's strength is not weak. After he approached, that person also discovered him and promptly shouted, "Who is it? I have no malice. I opened the city gate." Qin Yun promptly said, he is certain that it is that person who is commanding the Sacred Tiger Army. Of course, he is not sure if it is the same person or not. "So it's you? Why did you blast open the city gate?" The mist inside the thick cloud suddenly dispersed and a tall and sturdy middle-aged man appeared. "Nothing, I just want to help you fight against the 6 cities." Qin Yun said, "Is your excellency a human or a beast?" The tall and sturdy middle-aged man has a square face. He has 2 strands of beard on his face. He looks very imposing. He is sizing up Qin Yun. "I am the son of Sacred Tiger King. My name is Zhi. Who are you?" The middle-aged man said, "My name is Fei Yun." Qin Yun cupped his hands and said with a smile, "I think we can join hands and make the Divine King City suffer even more disastrous losses." Zhi doubtfully said, "What kind of enmity do you have with the 6 cities?" Qin Yun is not concealing his cultivation. He is only a saint, and Zhi is a great saint. However, Zhi doesn't dare to look down on Qin Yun because he saw how the sturdy city gate was blasted open. Originally, Zhi only wanted to attack the city and probe the defense of the 6 cities before making further plans. After the Sacred Tiger Army attacked the city for a period of time, Zhi saw that the defense of the 6 cities is very strong and wanted to retreat. However, the city gate was suddenly blasted open and the barrier of the 6 cities was destroyed from inside by a very strong power. Therefore, he immediately seized the opportunity and commanded the Sacred Tiger Army to enter the city. "I have great enmity with the Divine King City. I can deal with those Heavenly Armor Guards. I can make their heavenly armor lose effect for a very short period of time. Once the heavenly armor guards lose effect, they will become weak chickens, Qin Yun said. Ji, whose expression is filled with bewilderment as he asked, "Can you really make 10,000 heavenly armor guards lose effect?" "If I can, I will command my Jihu army to attack and exterminate more than half of them." "All right, we will cooperate. I will go down now. You must seize the opportunity," Qin Yun said. "All right, after the troops retreat, we will have a good talk." Jihu's face revealed a trace of smile and said, "I hope you can really do it. I don't really believe it." Qin Yun laughed and then swooped down. While he was descending, his palms suddenly turned red and he released the power of Heavenly Eye. After obtaining Heavenly Eye, he has a very special ability. He can quickly condense blood spirit power into runes and condense them on his palms. This is also a kind of inscription battle technique. He created a set of runes that can suppress the heavenly armor guards. It needs to be coordinated with his nether sun power to be released. As Qin Yun swooped down, his hands condensed 2 sets of runes. He continuously blasted down with his palms. A large number of complex runes condensed into 2 huge red palm images. The palm images can almost cover the entire 6 cities. 2 huge red palm images continuously rush down. Hoo-hoo! These 2 palm images do not have any formidable power, but they contain a very special rune energy that enveloped the heavenly armor guards. At the same time, the golden heavenly armor on the heavenly armor guard lost its luster. Jihu, who was high in the sky, could see the situation in the city of God Kings through the sacred tigers on the ground. The sacred tigers saw that the heavenly armor guard's heavenly armor had suddenly failed. While Jihu was shocked, he immediately commanded the group of sacred tigers to charge into the sky and attack the group of heavenly armor guards. The powerful sacred tigers outnumbered the heavenly armor guards by several times, but because the heavenly armor guards had powerful heavenly armor protecting them, the sacred tigers didn't dare to attack. Now that the heavenly armor guards' heavenly armor had lost its effect, they were no different from ordinary sages. The giant divine tigers rushed into the air and opened their mouths wide. They could bite a heavenly armor guard to pieces. Roar! Roar! The sacred tiger seemed to have gone mad as it tore at the group of heavenly armor guards. The people around the sun altar were so shocked that their bodies were trembling. The heavenly armor guards were protected by powerful heavenly armor, but they were still bitten to pieces by the sacred tiger. A large number of heavenly armor guards screamed in pain. In the blink of an eye, the group of heavenly armor guards was devoured. What was even more inconceivable was that after the heavenly armor guards lost its effect, it became extremely weak and was instantly destroyed. Qin Yun knew very well how the heavenly armor was formed. It was formed by the heavenly Tao, divine domain, absorbing the heavenly Tao energy bestowed by the heavens. Not to mention this kind of golden heavenly armor. Even if it was a purple gold heavenly armor, Qin Yun could still suppress it. After the group of sacred tigers killed a large group of heavenly armor guards, they immediately retreated. Not long after the group of tigers retreated, a small golden sun appeared at the top of the sun altar. It was condensed by the sun altar and possessed a very strong attack power. The 6 cities of the Divine King were destroyed by a group of powerful beasts. This caused the people hiding near the sun altar to tremble. It was one thing for the huge city to be destroyed, but that group of powerful heavenly armor guards were actually eaten by the sacred tiger. This was truly shocking. Everyone knew of the heavenly law divine domain's prestige. Their heavenly armor was very powerful, but it could be suppressed by others. Everyone recalled what had happened and thought of the 2 red palm shadows. That was the mysterious power that caused the heavenly armor to suddenly lose its effect. Qin Yun floated in the sky and said, "The sun altar's barrier is very strong and very difficult to break. We should indeed retreat." Jihu said with smile, "I only came to test the defense of the 6 cities of the Divine King. I never thought that I would be able to break through this city. I never expected to reap so many pleasant surprises." "Big brother Jihu, why do you want to fight against the Divine King City?" Qin Yun asked. The divine king city was built by the heavenly law divine domain. My father is the sacred tiger king, a sun rune beast. My father received an order from the sun to fight against the heavenly law divine domain. Jihu said, "It sounds very unfathomable, but it's just like that. Don't think that I'm spouting nonsense." Qingyun didn't think so. Moreover, he could roughly guess. It seems like the 9 suns did not nurture you group of inscription beasts in vain. Qingyun said with smile. You should be the power that the 9 suns left in the 9 desolate. Jihu said in shock. Brother Feiyun, just what is your background? You actually know this kind of thing? We inscription beasts have indeed received the help of the 9 suns to become so powerful. Inscription beasts are mainly born in the outer heaven domain. They are creatures born naturally from inscription, and it is very difficult for these inscription beasts to survive in other heavenly domains. However, it is different in the 9 suns heavenly domain. The 9 suns take very good care of the inscription beasts. Qingyun knew this point very early on. Therefore, the 9 suns heavenly domain has the most number of beasts, especially the dragon race. They are a very powerful existence in the 9 suns heavenly domain. Chapter 2012. After Jihu bade farewell to Qingyun, he rapidly flew away. Qingyun did not leave the 6 divine king cities. Although he did not obtain the sun seed, he was very happy to see the 6 divine king cities destroyed. He landed on the top of a mountain and looked at the ruins in the distance. At the top of the sun altar, a small golden sun appeared. It was used for attacking, and it was mainly controlled by the divine wilderness. While Qingyun was looking at the ruins of the 6 god king cities, a gray-robed elder suddenly appeared behind him. It was the old hunter from before. Senior, you are truly a lingering spirit, Qingyun said with smile. Don't tell me you want to extort me. Although your cultivation is not as high as mine, I feel that it won't be that easy for me to kill you. The gray-robed old man smiled and said, This old man's name is Kong Chung. I want to get to know little brother. I am Feiyun. Qingyun cupped his fists at Kong Chung and said with a smile, Elder Kong, there are 9 godly monarch cities. Your past should allow you to enter the other godly monarch cities, right? I don't know about that. Kong Chung said, That depends on whether the other divine kings are willing. After all, there are a large number of people who need to be relocated. The other divine kings might not be willing to accept so many people. Old Kong, this junior just came from Immortal Desolate. I don't know much about Sacred Desolate. Can you tell me what big sects are in Sacred Desolate? Qingyun said. Kong Chung is very surprised, he said in shock. So you are from the Immortal Desolate? No wonder he's not afraid of anything. Those who came from the Immortal Desolate meant that they were once the most powerful people in the Immortal Desolate. Qingyun shook his head and smiled. I just think it's fun. Kong Chung said. In the Sacred Wasteland, the strongest is the Divine King Palace. There are godly king palaces in many large cities, and new godly kings are consecrated inside. This was something Qingyun knew. Then there's the Inscription Palace. This is a very ancient organization. It's mainly a gathering place for a group of powerful inscription masters. Qingyun nodded. He was very familiar with this. Then there are the Darkness Royal race and the Emperor race. These 2 powerful ancient races have disappeared for several epochs, and only now have they suddenly reappeared. Kong Chung said again. Qingyun also knew that the Sacred Desolate also had the Dark Royal race and Emperor race. The Divine Inscription Palace, God King Palace, Dark Royal race, and Emperor race that I mentioned before, these are all rather special existences. And there aren't many normal powerful sects. There are only 2. Kong Chung sighed. There were originally quite a few, but most of them weakened during the war against the outer heavens and eventually merged into those 2, in one of the strongest sects. The Sacred Desolate was also facing the threat of the outer sky domain, but it was the outer sky domain of the sacred space. The outer heavens and the sacred space were even more powerful. How powerful are those 2 sects? How about the strength of the Divine Inscription Palace and the Divine King Palace? Qingyun asked. He asked this because he wanted to see if he could joined forces with these two sects to resist the godly King Palace. The Supreme Saint Palace and the Qinghong sect are very old sections. To be able to survive for so long, they are definitely not weak. Behind the Divine King Palace is the Heavenly Law Divine Realm, so these two sects are definitely not comparable to the Divine King Palace. However, if the Divine King Palace wants to take down these two sects, they will have to pay a considerable price. Kong Chung laughed. I'm from a Supreme Saint Palace, Qin Yun said with a smile. No wonder Elder Kong is so powerful. So it turns out that you are a disciple of a large sect. Kong Chung chuckled. Little brother Fei Yun, do you want to join our Supreme Saint Palace? I will recommend you to become a disciple of an elder. Of course, don't tell him that you broke the gate of the Divine King's city. Otherwise, he will be scared to death. No need. I have my own sect. I am the sect master, Qin Yun said with a smile. His inscription gate has also come to the Sacred Desolate, but he is still unable to contact them. So that's how it is. Kong Chung is slightly startled and said, How about this? Your sect can merge with our Supreme Saint Palace. Of course, you can maintain your own operations and merge with my Supreme Saint Palace. You can share the information we have gathered, and when we go to the outer heavens, we can also join forces. That's not bad. Wait until I find the members of my sect. I just came to the Sacred Desolate and lost contact with them, Qin Yun said with a bitter smile. Although I am the sect master, I am the latest to come to the Sacred Desolate. Kong Chung said, I can help you with this. You need to provide me with some clues. That is a strange mountain that can move. Just know that mountain. How will you contact me when the time comes? Qin Yun said, Use communication sacred talisman. Kong Chung took out a communication sacred talisman and handed it to Qin Yun. Only God King Palace and Divine Inscription Palace can sell these communication sacred talismans. After the spatial laws of the Sacred Desolate changed, only they can make spatial communication things. Qin Yun took a look and said, This kind of communication sacred talisman must be very expensive, right? Not cheap. One sun god crystal for one, they are really making a killing off those bastards. Kong Chung felt very angry talking about this matter. Qin Yun can understand Kong Cheng's anger. Originally, communication sacred talismans were not very expensive, but after the spatial laws of the Sacred Desolate changed, only Divine Inscription Palace and Divine King Palace could refine them. They deliberately raised the price to earn a large amount of sun god crystals. The sun god crystal is a precious resource that descended from the sun before the world extermination. Now, it has been plundered by the Divine King Palace and the Divine Inscription Palace using various methods. Old Kong, Immortal Desolate's dragon race and imperial race should have arrived in Sacred Desolate. Do you have any news about them? Qin Yun said, I have heard of them, especially the Immortal Desolate dragon race. They are very powerful. They control the 9-dragon heavenly origin formation, which is something that the Sacred Desolate dragon race does not have. Therefore, after they merged with the Sacred Desolate dragon race, they have a very high status. Kong Chung said, The Immortal Desolate dragon race despises the Emperor clans for being too weak, so they did not have any Emperor clans. He has joined an Imperial clan. There are many branches of the dragon race. There was the Outer Sky Domain's dragon race, the Imperial dragon race within the Arch clans, and the Sacred Wastelands dragon race. When the Immortal Desolate dragon race came to the Sacred Desolate, they naturally merged into the Sacred Desolate dragon race. As for the dragon clan of the Outer Heavens, they were merged into the Emperor dragon clan. Although these dragons were not together, they would still help each other when they were in trouble. A spatial fluctuation suddenly rippled out from the sun altar. Hundreds of golden pillars suddenly descended from the sky. Each pillar was 1,000 meters tall and surrounded the ruined city of God King, forming a very strong barrier. This is from the Divine Desolate. They are truly willful, casually sending down things from the Divine Desolate. Kong Chung sighed. It's good to have the Heavenly Law Divine Realm as your backer. The space between the Sacred Desolate and the Divine Desolate were relatively close, so it was relatively convenient to open a passage. Now, The passage between the two was also controlled by the heavenly law divine realm. The divine tiger, sacred ground, has angered the heavenly law divine realm. There's going to be a good show to watch. Kong Chung laughed. Old Kong, when are you leaving? I want to stay here for a while. Qin Yun said, I am very interested in that divine king altar. I want to understand a little more. I'll leave immediately. I've already made a move before, so I'm worried that I'll leave behind some clues, so it's better if I leave first. Kong Chung chuckled. Kong Chung is a very bold old man. Otherwise, he would not have dared to help Qin Yun lure away the guards. If not for Kong Cheng's help, the 6 cities of the Divine King wouldn't have become like this, so he can be considered the main culprit. Qin Yun and Kong Chung signed a soul contract before, promising not to speak of this matter, so Kong Chung left with ease. Qin Yun still stayed on the mountain, looking at the 6 cities of the Divine King. Under the 6 cities of the Divine King, there is the sun seed he is looking for. If he doesn't get it, he will not leave the city. Qin Yun entered the interior of the mountain and emptied it. Then he released the floating cloud pagoda and hid it inside the mountain. He entered the floating cloud pagoda and began cultivating. I need to quickly become stronger. I need to have at least the cultivation of the great saint realm to be able to do more big things. Otherwise, if I meet a great saint, I will have to hide far away. Qin Yun's nether sun stored the energy collected from inside the sacred desolate's gate. He now wants to refine this energy and use it to increase his cultivation. The destruction of the 6 cities of the Divine King is a very sensational event in the sacred desolate. There are 9 cities of the Divine King. They are also known as the 9 strongest cities of the sacred desolate. Now one of them has been destroyed. This caused the people of the other cities to panic. Divine Tiger Holy Ground's fame also rose overnight because the ones who destroyed the 6 cities of the Divine King are the Wisdom Tiger Army. Most shocking thing is that the 10,000 Heavenly Armor Guards were completely annihilated. The Heavenly Armor Guards' heavenly armor was not used at all. Instead, they were devoured by the Wisdom Tiger Army. Among the 9 cities of the Divine King, only 6 have sun altars. Now it seems that these 6 sun altars are the most stable because the sun altars of the 6 cities have not been breached yet. Qin Yun's cultivation is rather slow. After cultivating for 3 days, he suddenly sensed that the mountain is slightly trembling. He immediately left the floating cloud pagoda. After arriving outside, he sensed a burst of dense and cold air. Xian Rujing arrived. She is wearing snow-white clothes. She is floating in the sky. Her long skirt is dancing along with her long hair. Her entire body is releasing an ice-cold and merciless cold air. It is indeed you. Xian Rujing looked at Qin Yun and said in an indifferent voice. She found out that something happened to the 6 cities of the Divine King and the Heavenly Armor Guards were destroyed. She suspected that Qin Yun is involved, so she immediately rushed to the vicinity of the 6 cities and used Spirit Chasing Talisman to find this place. Seeing that Qin Yun is still alive and without any serious injury, she felt a lot relieved. If not for her emotions being deprived, she would be very excited and happy. But now she still looks ice cold. Sister Rujing, did you go to Mother Moon? Qin Yun asked. I have been in the sacred desolate for more than a year. I have not found Mother Moon. Xian Rujing shook her head. It is really strange. Mother Moon is missing. Xian Rujing arrived in the sacred desolate earlier than Qin Yun, but not more than a year earlier. The main reason is because Qin Yun is inside the chaotic space-time. Time is distorted. Let's enter the floating cloud pagoda first. Qin Yun extended his hand to pull Xian Rujing, but she did not extend her hand. Let's go, Xian Rujing said in an indifferent voice. Chapter 2013. Qin Yun grabbed Xian Rujing's lily-white hand and discovered that it has become somewhat warm, not ice-cold like before. Sister Rujing, did you just bathe your hand in fire? Why is it so warm? Qin Yun said with a smile. He can't help but rub her delicate lily-white hand. This kind of feeling is very nostalgic. Quickly enter floating cloud pagoda. Xian Rujing lightly glared at him and urged. Qin Yun pulled Xian Rujing to 20th floor of Floating Cloud Pagoda and said, "You have been in Sacred Desolate for more than a year. Have you been looking for Mother Moon?" Xian Rujing is sitting on a chair Qin Yun brought out and said, "I used soul-chasing talisman to look for Sister Kiru and others, but I couldn't sense them. I thought the talisman lost its effect, but when I arrived near 6 Divine King cities, I sensed you using the talisman and confirmed that it is still working." Qin Yun said with frown, "Sister Rujing, what about Sister Lingxue? You should have some kind of connection with her, right? You don't know where she is?" Xian Rujing shook her head. "I don't know. Our connection has already been severed." Qin Yun also feels that it is very strange. Mother Moon clearly came to Sacred Desolate, but has disappeared. "Then did you go look for Immortal Desolate Dragon Race?" Qin Yun asked. "I did. I saw Red Sun Dragon Mother, but she said she did not see Mother Moon. I have a speculation. Mother Moon is hiding in another space. That is why we can't sense her." Xian Rujing said. Qin Yun nodded. "It is indeed possible. I suspect that Heavenly Law Divine Domain noticed Mother Moon's existence, and Sister Kiru and others are hiding. Sister Kiru and others' cultivation is not high. We need to be careful in Sacred Desolate. They must be hiding and cultivating. They will take action after they become stronger. They cultivated sacred veins through Moon's moon core. I suspect that Heavenly Law Divine Domain has a way to sense their existence. Moon and 9 suns are closely related. It could be said that they were born under the influence of 9 suns. They have also absorbed great amount of energy from 9 suns for many years." Qin Yun said with frown, "If it is Heavenly Law Divine Domain, it is possible to sense them who have cultivated Moon sacred veins." Xian Rujing said, "Qin Yun, let us cultivate together. Even though I am Ice Goddess, my cultivation in Sacred Desolate is too low. I want to become stronger as fast as possible." "Yes, I'm also planning to cultivate." Qin Yun nodded and said, "I previously stored a lot of energy inside the Sacred Desolate Gate. I might need to cultivate together to refine it." Xian Rujing lightly groaned. "This kind of energy is very difficult to refine because we are absorbing it together. If we try to refine it alone, the speed will be very slow. I have not cultivated for 1 year because of this reason." Qin Yun said with smile, "Sister Rujing, have you been targeted by the power of heavenly punishment these past few days?" "Not yet." Xian Rujing shook her head and asked, "What about you? Did you suffer any torture in the chaotic space-time?" "Not really." Qin Yun is somewhat surprised. He said with smile, "Sister Rujing, are you worried about me?" Xian Rujing coldly groaned and said, "Not at all. I just want to know how big the price you paid to save me is. This way I can have some idea in my heart and clearly calculate how to repay you. Elder Sister Rujing, you are already my woman. Although you don't have any feelings for me, you are still that ice mother tigress in my heart. Don't talk about not returning it." Qin Yun shook his head and smiled. Just as he finished speaking, Xian Rujing's long skirt suddenly slid down. Xian Rujing's expression is ice cold. She slowly took off her outer skirt. Qin Yun lightly inhaled a mouthful of air, looking at this flawless, ice-cold, beautiful, jade-like woman. Although her body is releasing a cold aura, she is also infinitely attractive. "What are you staring blankly for?" Xian Rujing coldly groaned. "Since I am your woman, you don't need to mind it anymore. Let's quickly cultivate Sun and Moonheart Sutra 3rd level. I can't wait to become stronger." Qin Yun deeply breathed a few mouthfuls of air. He doesn't know whether or not Xian Rujing has recovered her feelings, but since she can accept this kind of intimate contact between lovers, he is very happy in his heart. Ling Yuner is somewhat excited. She charmingly smiled and said, "Xiao Yun, although elder sister Rujing has lost her feelings, she is still as sultry as before. Her temperament has not changed a bit." Qin Yun embraced the beauty and felt a very strange warmth. He said in low voice, "Sister Rujing, have you recovered your feelings? Otherwise, shut up, properly cultivate." While speaking, Xian Rujing bit Qin Yun's shoulder. Although Qin Yun is in pain, He is very happy in his heart. He is very familiar with ice and snow goddess who bites people. Both of them hugged each other and began cultivating Sun and Moonheart Sutra third level together. During the cultivation process, Xian Rujing is in charge. While Qin Yun is enjoying this kind of wonderful feeling, he can also sense that the peculiar energy inside Nether Sun is being refined very quickly. His cultivation is becoming stronger. Back when they were in Holy Gate, they cultivated together to absorb the energy. Therefore, it was very difficult for them to refine it alone. But now that they are cultivating together, the refining speed is very fast, causing Qin Yun and Xian Rujing to be endlessly apprehensive. Xian Rujing leaned on Qin Yun's chest and said in low voice, "This is really strange. I have not been able to refine much in a year, yet after cultivating together with you for a day, the refining speed is so fast." Sister Rujing, according to reason, you have been deprived of your feelings. You should not have feelings, but it seems like you are enjoying it very much. Qin Yun doubtfully asked, "Do you have feelings for me now?" He did not get any response. Instead, Xian Rujing bit his arm. "Don't ask too much. Continue cultivating." Xian Rujing raised her head, coldly glared at Qin Yun, and said, "You are clearer than me about your situation. I already have no feelings. I will never have any in the future." Qin Yun kissed her face and said with a smile, "No matter what happens, you will not be able to leave me. You said before that you cannot live without me in your life. That is only because I considered you a cultivation partner. Don't think too highly of yourself." Xian Rujing coldly groaned and said, "Qin Yun, don't have any illusions about me. I will be with you, but I will not have any feelings for you." Qin Yun said with a sigh, "I obtained your heart before, but after obtaining your body, I lost your heart. Can't you have your body and your heart at the same time? This heavenly punishment curse not only fell on your body, it also fell on my heart." Xian Rujing's face is stuck on Qin Yun's chest. Her beautiful eyes are filled with tenderness and joy. Moreover, they are also somewhat moist. After cultivating together for a few days, all the energy they absorbed in Holy Gate has been refined. Qin Yun condensed a ball of saint power on his palm. The saint power has 3 layers of saint splendor. He exclaimed in admiration and said, "Late stage sage realm." Directly crossed mid-stage and reached late stage. This is too fast. Because in just a few days' time, Xian Rujing has already broken through so fast. Xian Rujing spread out her lily-white hand and condensed a ball of ice-cold silver-white saint power. The saint power has 3 layers of saint splendor lingering around it. This is the cultivation of late-stage sage realm. She is also very happy. A somewhat ice-cold smile appeared on her lily-white face. Then she leisurely combed her beautiful long hair. Although the beautiful woman before him is ice-cold, when she combed her hair, she looks very amorous. She has a kind of peerlessly beautiful spiritual charm, causing Qin Yun to be somewhat dazed. After he calmed down, he asked, "Sister Rujing, you're also late-stage sage realm. We can attack great sage realm soon." When we cultivated together inside Holy Gate, we absorbed a lot of energy, then we cultivated together and refined them. Our 9 Sun sacred veins and 9 Yin sacred veins together cultivated Sun and Moonheart Sutra third layer together. Only then we have this kind of effect. Xian Rujing said. She combed her long hair and let it hang down on her chest. Qin Yun hugged her, gently caressed her jade-like back, and said with a smile, "My 9 Sun divine spirit still has a lot of Holy Gate's energy stored inside it. Should we continue cultivating? Come." Xian Rujing is very surprised. She did not expect Qin Yun to have so much Holy Gate's energy stored inside his 9 Sun divine spirit. Soon after, they started cultivating Sun and Moonheart Sutra together. Qin Yun released the energy inside Holy Gate and wanted to absorb it into his body, but discovered that he cannot. "It seems like I can only absorb it when I just entered sacred transformation," Qin Yun said in disappointment. "Why are you disappointed? Are you afraid that you won't be able to be together with me?" Xian Rujing lightly groaned and said, "Let's go take a bath. My snow goddess totem is changing. It will only appear in water. Help me take a look." "All right." Qinya nodded and said. He and Xian Rujing arrived at the lower floor. There's a very large bathing pool here. Xian Rujing put on her thin clothes and entered the bathing pool. She closed her eyes and said in soft voice, I need some time to make the God position totem appear. Wait patiently. When did you sense the change? Qin Yun asked. After coming out of Holy Gate. I suspect that because my emotions were stripped away, I obtained even more God position inheritance. This is just my guess. Xian Rujing said. Qin Yun said with frown. It shouldn't be. When God position is being refined, there is no such setting. The so-called abandoning of emotions is only to cultivate mental state, to cultivate even stronger divine power. It has nothing to do with God position totem. Then what does it have to do with me? Xian Rujing said. You used to be Nine Sun Palace King. You are also an inscription master. You must be very knowledgeable about runes, right? Qin Yun said, Let me see if there is any change in your God position totem first. Qin Yun, what about your God position totem? You're the king of gods. You're also a sun god. What is your God position totem like? Xian Rujing is very curious. Honestly speaking, my God position totem is very special. The divine position of the sun, God, once fell into the sun and was tempered by the 9 suns in turn. Although the sun god totem is hidden within the divine position, I have never been able to dig it out. Qin Yun sighed and said. Now many runes appeared on the surface of Xian Rujing's body. These silver-white runes are very beautiful. They look like tattoos. They are flickering on her snow-white skin. It seems like there is no change. Qin Yun carefully looked and said, It is the same as before. Continue looking. Xian Rujing finished speaking. Suddenly many small purple-red runes appeared on the silver-white totem on her arm. Chapter 2014. Xian Rujing doesn't understand these things. She only wants to know if it is useful or not. She asked, Then what is the benefit to me? I only discovered that the God position totem is changing. I don't feel any benefit, because it has not fully matured. Qin Yun is also somewhat excited. He said with smile, Sister Rujing, if it truly matures, these sun heavenly runes will give you a very special ability. Why do I have this kind of change? I was clearly cursed by heavenly punishment. Why do I have heavenly runes? Xian Rujing is very puzzled. Qin Yun shook his head and said, I also don't know the specific reason. In short, this sun heavenly rune is very special. It belongs to you alone. It is a newly born heavenly rune. Could it be because we are cultivating Sun and Moon Heart Sutra together? Xian Rujing said in low voice. When we were cultivating together before, I sensed that my God position totem was constantly changing. Is it growing? I don't know. Qin Yun is also pondering the reason. He said, It is possible. But why did your God position totem change after cultivating together with me? Let's cultivate together again. Xian Rujing looked at Qin Yun and said in a somewhat indifferent tone, This. Qin Yun is startled. He thought that after Xian Rujing refined the energy with him, she would not be with him anymore. He did not expect that Xian Rujing would take the initiative to bring it up. Quickly begin. Xian Rujing coldly groaned. What are you waiting for? Next, Xian Rujing and Qin Yun began cultivating Sun and Moon Heart Sutra again. During the cultivation process, Xian Rujing did not take back her God position totem. This way Qin Yun can sense the change. Just as Xian Rujing guessed, while cultivating Sun and Moon Heart Sutra, her God position totem indeed changed. It absorbed energy to strengthen itself. So it's like this. Xian Rujing leaned on Qin Yun's bosom and said in low voice, Why is it like this? Qin Yun kissed her forehead, then gently caressed her back through her wet gauze dress and said, It seems like this is very beneficial to you. Qin Yun, maybe I know where Mother Moon is. Xian Rujing suddenly said, Where? Let's go together. Qin Yun said, No, I'll go by myself. You stay here and look after that sun altar. You must obtain that sun altar. Xian Rujing lightly shook her head. Qin Yun tightly embraced the ice-cold beauty in his arms and said, I don't feel at ease letting you go alone. Xian Rujing said, When I was in Guanghan Palace, I heard Sister Kiru say that Sacred Desolate has extreme inland. That place is closely related to Moon. Maybe I can find that place with my 9 Ean's sacred vein. Let me accompany you. Qin Yun kissed her cheek. This won't do. You have 9 Sun's sacred veins. That place is very dangerous. Xian Rujing's tone became somewhat cold as she said, Qin Yun, you must listen to me this time. All right. Qin Yun sighed. Before leaving, I will accompany you for a few days. Even though Xian Rujing's voice is cold, her meaning is very clear. Qin Yun is very doubtful because he understands heavenly punishment very well. Xian Rujing should have been deprived of her 7 emotions and 6 desires, but now she is not resisting him at all. Instead, she is taking the initiative to be together with him. If Xian Rujing had recovered her emotions, it would be impossible for her to be so ice-cold. It must be known that back in Immortal Desolate, when Xian Rujing called Xiao Yun little brother, she was very delicate and sweet. Sister Rujing, I want to know why you are so good to me? Qin Yun placed his hand on Xian Rujing's ice-cold, beautiful face and caressed it lovingly. Xian Rujing's expression is filled with helplessness as she said, I have been deprived of my emotions, but I am very clear that I can never leave you in this life. I think it is because I don't want to see you in pain, because your painful appearance makes me feel indescribable heartache. And you also don't want to see me in pain, is that right? Qin Yun kissed her vermilion lips. Xian Rujing also very naturally catered to him. Both of them came out of the bath and arrived at 20th floor. Qin Yun shouted a few times towards the Star God altar, but there was no response. Sacred Desolate's altar passage has been closed. Only Love God's passage is open. Xian Rujing said. Qin Yun sighed. I wonder when I can contact Sister Star God. Originally, Qin Yun wanted Xian Rujing to immediately set off to Sacred Desolate's extreme land, but she insisted on staying with him for a few days. These few days Qin Yun has been living very well. Although Xian Rujing doesn't have any emotions, she is not that ice-cold towards him. It can be said that she is not rejecting him at all. Sister Rujing, you must be careful. If there is any situation, immediately contact me. Qin Yun warned. Xian Rujing arrived at Sacred Desolate and bought some communication talismans. She handed one over to Qin Yun and said, If you need help, you must tell me. I will immediately come find you. I don't want to miss the opportunity to repay your favor. I know. Qin Yun laughed and said, Then before I leave, can I kiss you again? Xian Rujing took the initiative to kiss Qin Yun. Both of them kissed for a while and then separated at the summit of the mountain. Qin Yun deeply breathed in the cold fragrance left behind by the beauty. He looked at the direction where Xian Rujing disappeared and sighed with some melancholy in his heart. Xiao Yun, what is going on with Sister Rujing? Didn't you say she doesn't have any emotions? But this kind of behavior, it is clear that she has some emotions. Ling Yuner curled her lips and said, Otherwise, how could a pure and clean ice and snow goddess like her stay so sweet with you for more than 10 days without emotions? Qin Yun faintly smiled and said, Cursed heavenly punishment is very ruthless, but they underestimated our human emotions. I suspect that Sister Rujing has already been reborn with emotions. Her God-positioned totem can give birth to Sun Heavenly Rune. Rebirth of emotions should be very normal. Xiao Yun, did you notice? Sister Rujing seems to be enjoying being with you these days. Even though she is ice-cold, she is very close to you. Ling Yuner said with evil smile. Truly a cold and aloof ice and snow goddess. Qin Yun stood at the summit of the mountain and looked at the 6 divine king cities. The 6 divine king cities have been surrounded by many huge formation pillars. The entire city is being rebuilt. Even though the 6 divine king cities have been destroyed, after they are rebuilt, their defense will be even stronger. I somewhat regret helping Ji Hu's army to attack the 6 divine king cities. Qin Yun said. Ling Yuner said with smile, Xiao Yun, you are the 9 Yang Palace King. Those formations should be nothing to you, right? Not necessarily. If the heavenly law divine realm is serious, the formations they set up are still very powerful. Qin Yun shook his head and smiled. The 6 divine king cities are being rebuilt, and the construction speed is very fast. After all, many powerful saints are involved. Now that there's an even stronger barrier protecting them, it will be difficult for Jihu's army to attack the cities again. Qin Yun circled around the 6 divine king cities a few times and heard that the divine inscription palace is participating in the construction of the 6 divine king cities. Not only are those formations very strong in defense, they can also counterattack. It is extremely difficult to break through them. And the Divine King Palace is going to crusade against the Divine Tiger Sacred Ground. The Divine Tiger Sacred Ground is located in a dangerous place in the Sacred Desolate. The Divine Tiger Sacred Ground was formed from the Sun Divine Stone that fell down. The Sacred Tiger King inside the Divine Tiger Sacred Ground is a very powerful Sun Rune beast. Therefore, many people are not optimistic about the Divine King Palace's crusade against the Divine Tiger Sacred Ground. Not to mention passing through that dangerous place, they also have to face the Sacred Tiger Army, who have the advantage of the battlefield. The losses will definitely not be small. However, if the Divine King Palace does not do anything, their prestige will be swept to the ground. The Divine King Palace dispatched many great saints to the Divine Tiger Sacred Ground. Outside the 6 divine king cities, Qin Yun is standing at the city gate. He wants to enter, but he found out that he needs to sign a soul contract to enter. The main reason for signing the soul contract is to prevent people from attacking the 6 divine king cities from inside. Moreover, he can't fight or destroy inside the 6 divine king cities. Because he needs to sign the soul contract, Qin Yun did not enter. It seems like it won't be easy to enter the 6 divine king cities in the future. Qin Yun is standing at the top of a tall mountain and looking at the huge sun altar. His goal is the sun altar and the mysterious sun seed below. Nighttime, Qin Yun once again entered deep underground. He is now late-stage Saint Realm. His strength is even stronger than before. Therefore, after approaching the Heavenly God Seal restriction, he can resist the strange power released by the restriction. It must be known that if one's strength is not enough to approach the Heavenly God Seal restriction, it is very easy to be sucked inside and then sealed for many years. Qin Yun is very familiar with the Heavenly God Seal restriction, so he knows how to deal with it. Although the Heavenly God Seal restriction is a very strong seal, its power fluctuation is very weak. Where does the energy of the Heavenly God Seal restriction come from? To maintain such a powerful sealing barrier, it must require a lot of energy. Ling Yuner asked. The source of energy is the sun seed. Qin Yun said, I was once sealed by the Heavenly God Seal restriction. At that time, the source of energy was my body. Then wouldn't you be sucked dry in the end? Ling Yun said in astonishment. Xiao Yun, how did you get rid of the Heavenly God Seal restriction back then? At that time, the Heavenly God Seal restriction was absorbing my energy. I deliberately cultivated a very berserk energy and let the Heavenly God Seal restriction absorb that berserk energy. Then, through my mental power, I controlled my energy to burst out and damage the important runes of the Heavenly God Seal restriction. Qin Yun said, Then what about now? How can you break the formation? The one being sealed is not you. Ling Yuner said, Qin Yun has already arrived deep underground. He is just outside the Heavenly God Seal restriction. He looked at the light wall and said, That's why I am hesitating whether or not I should enter the Heavenly God Seal restriction. If you go inside and you don't have enough power to destroy the Heavenly God Seal restriction, it will be very troublesome. Ling Yuner sighed and said, Why do I feel that it will be very difficult to break the formation? Qin Yun said with a smile, Back then I didn't have Nether Sun, so it was very painful to be sealed. But now it is different. I have Nether Sun and also you. Is that so? Can Nether Sun really resist the Heavenly God Seal restriction? Ling Yun happily smiled and said, Xiao Yun, let's join hands. Qin Yun nodded and said, I will enter now. He deliberately approached the Heavenly God Seal restriction and released very formidable energy. Chapter 2015. Qin Yun was dragged into the heavenly god sealing restriction and immediately felt like he was inside a furnace. It was extremely hot. He hurriedly urged all the power in his body to resist the heat, but his body was still burned to the point that it was extremely uncomfortable. This place was filled with intense golden light. Being illuminated by that golden light, one's body felt like it was going to be burnt. Qin Yun promptly took out the 9 Heavens Dragon Lion Cannon and activated the Snow Goddess Totem on it, releasing a powerful ice-cold power. When the ice-cold energy entered Qin Yun's body, he immediately felt extremely comfortable. Sister Rujing's deity throne totem is really useful, Ling Yun said with a smile. After I turn into an elf and go out, I must kiss this ice-cold beauty. Qin Yun was surrounded by golden light as he exclaimed, "Is this the energy released by the Yang seed? How powerful!" Even though he had a strong physical body and his heaven's might overlord body was comparable to a divine body, he was still suffering from the burning. If anyone else came in, they would definitely be burned to ashes. Therefore, it is very difficult for Qin Yun to find other people here. "Xiao Yun, where is the Yang seed?" Ling Yun asked. "Do you want to break the formation first, or take the Yang seed first?" Qin Yun used his powerful mental power to control his body to swim. He suddenly realized that his mental power was not strong enough because in the heaven-sealing God-forbidden land, his mental power was greatly affected. If I had known earlier, I would have absorbed the mental power of the 9 Sun Divine Spirits' 6th Pearl first before coming in. Qin Yun's current actions are completely relying on mental power, because if he were to release Nether Sun power or any other power, it would be devoured by the heavenly god sealing restriction. He moved forward slowly and said, "I'll find a Yang seed first. Right now, I'm still unable to confirm whether or not I can break this heavenly god sealing restriction. If I am unable to break it, then I can only think of a way to cultivate and become stronger here and grasp sufficient strength before making any plans." The heaven-sealing, God-sealing restriction covered a large area, much larger than the entire 6 cities of God King. Therefore, Qin Yun could enter the heaven-sealing restriction by burrowing into the ground outside the city. He suspected that the sun seed was right below the sun altar. If he was on the ground, he would be able to reach the sun altar very quickly from outside the city. However, under the heavenly God sealing prohibition, he could only move slowly. Qin Yun can't stand this tortoise-like movement speed. He opened his heavenly eye inside the furnace like heavenly God seal restriction. His eyes suddenly turned purple-red. He used the power of the divine pupil to propel his body forward. In just a short while, he had crossed a large distance. After crossing that distance, he felt a slight pain in his head, and his mental strength was greatly consumed. "This won't do. I have to rest for a while." Qin Yun can only stop and take a short rest. He had the nether moon, so his mental energy recovered very quickly. After recovering, he used the divine pupil again. Every time he used it, he would have to rest for more than 2 hours. After repeating this process for 2 to 3 days, he finally neared the center of the heavenly God sealing formation. In other words, he was currently beneath the sun altar. The sun seed is truly terrifying. The energy it releases is sealed within the heavenly God sealing restriction, causing this place to turn into a huge furnace. Qin Yun is extremely alarmed. "Xiao Yun, what will happen if you absorb the sun seed into the 9 Sun Divine Spirit? Does it have to be placed in a separate bead?" Ling Yun asked. "I also don't know. This thing called sun seed is very mysterious. My previous understanding of sun seed was mainly based on analysis, but I feel that if I put it inside the 9 Sun Divine Spirit, the sun seed should not be so violent." Qin Yun said. Qin Yun is slowly approaching the sun seed. The closer he gets, the more dreadful the scorching heat becomes. The people of the 6 cities believe that the danger they will face are the beasts. What they don't know is that the greatest danger is the sun seed under the sun altar. If this sun seed erupts with energy, Even quintessential Saint Realm experts would not be able to withstand it. Did the sun seed get sealed by the heavenly god sealing restriction as soon as it landed? Otherwise, many people would know about this kind of fluctuation. Ling Yun said, it should be that after it landed, the heavenly god sealing restriction appeared. The sun seed and the heavenly god sealing restriction fought for a period of time, but in the end it was still sealed. Evil God also knows about the sun seed, so this matter cannot be hidden from sacred desolates, imperial race, and dragon race. Qinyan said, sacred desolates, imperial race, and dragon race definitely know about the sun seed. Not only the sun seed is sealed by the heavenly god sealing restriction, it is also suppressed by the heavenly law divine domain and the sun altar. The imperial race and dragon race can do nothing about it. After several days of hard work, Qin Yun is finally close to the sun seed. In front of him is a very intense golden light. He can't see the sun seed, but he can feel it. The sun seed's energy is very strong, but it is not released on its own initiative. It is drawn out by the heavenly god sealing restriction. Qin Yun said, the heavenly god sealing restriction draws out the sun seed's energy and devours it. However, the energy consumed by the heavenly god sealing restriction is limited, so it can't absorb that much in a short time. Ling Yin asked, is the sun altar also absorbing the sun seed's energy? Qin Yin shook his head and said, in this kind of vile environment, I can't release my mental power to investigate. He extended his hand forward and touched something. Suddenly, he touched a very stiff thing. What caused him to be shocked is that the thing flew into his hand on its own accord. He grabbed a round and very hot bead. It looks like it is only the size of a walnut. This is the sun seed? Qin Yin said in shock. Isn't it too small? He thought that the sun seed would be at least 100 meters wide. The smaller it is, the more astonished Qin Yun is. Such a small thing can actually condense such terrifying energy. Moreover, there is no sign of it being damaged. Xiao Yun, is this the sun seed? Or is it just a small piece of the sun seed? Ling Yun said, no, this is the sun seed. I can feel that the sun seed has a close connection with all the energy here. Qin Yun said, Yun control the nether sun to release the devouring power. We will help the sun seed devour the lost energy first. A large amount of energy inside the sun seed has been lured out by the heavenly god sealing restriction. This is the energy inside the sun seed. Qin Yun tried before. He was unable to absorb this kind of incomparably hot energy. It can be seen that this energy is very special. The sun seed is very intelligent. It sensed that Qin Yun is helping it absorb energy, so it released a kind of power to protect Qin Yun, not letting Qin Yun suffer from the burning energy. Ling Yun controlled the twin nether sun to produce a very strong devouring power and guided the energy inside the heavenly god sealing restriction into the sun seed. This energy originally belonged to the sun seed, but it was sucked out by the heavenly god sealing restriction. Now that the sun seed is using the nether sun, it has a very strong devouring power. It is also very fast to take back its own power. More than 20 hours passed by. The surroundings have become empty and pitch black. This huge open space deep underground is opened up by the energy released by the sun seed. The sun seed has now become very gentle. It was placed inside the 9 sun divine spirit by Qin Yun and placed beside the 9th heaven Xian sparrow, Yang Yang. Yang Yang has been sleeping. On one hand, it is because the sun has fallen asleep, and on the other hand, it is growing on its own. Could it be that the sun seed can make the sun soul grow? Maybe my 9 sun divine hammer, heaven trampling divine boots, and Yang Yang can evolve. Qin Yun is delighted. Xiao Yun, now that you have the sun seed, how are you going to leave the heavenly god sealing restriction? Don't be trapped here. Ling Yun is somewhat worried. Qin Yun said with a smile, don't worry, I won't be trapped here. This is not the first time I have been suppressed by the heavenly god sealing restriction. As he spoke, there was suddenly a force that was drawing out the energy in his body. Yin, look, the energy within my body is being extracted by the heavenly God sealing restriction. The heavenly God sealing restriction wants to absorb my energy to maintain its own operation. Qin Yun said with smile, "Come, we will release the most berserk power of the Nether Sun and pour it into the heavenly God sealing restriction. Then we will control the explosion of the energy." Qin Yun controlled the Nine-Dragon Heavenly Origin formation inside the Nine-Sun Divine Spirit to release energy to replenish his energy. This will allow him to quickly recover the power of the Nether Sun. Ling Yun controlled the Nether Sun and condensed a kind of tyrannical Nether Sun power. Not only can this kind of energy distort space, it also has a very strong melting power. The heavenly God sealing restriction has swallowed a lot of energy from the Sun Seed. If it explodes, Ling Yun said with mischievous smile, the recently rebuilt 6 Divine King cities might be destroyed again. Qin Yun smiled faintly and said, if nothing goes wrong, the altar will be affected as well. The explosion of the heavenly God sealing restriction is very dreadful. Xiao Yun, don't tell me you have a chance to take away the altar? Ling Yun said in pleasant surprise. If there is a strong enough energy explosion, we can temporarily cut off the connection between the Sun altar and Divine Desolate. Then I can absorb the altar into the Nine-Sun Divine Spirit. Qin Yun said, how strong is the energy explosion? Ling Yun hastily asked. You must grasp this opportunity well. Do your best to erupt with even stronger energy. Qin Yun pondered for a moment and said, Yin, the main purpose of the energy explosion is to attack the space channel between the Sun altar and Divine Desolate. Break through the space channel, and before the space channel is completely repaired, the Sun altar will lose its effectiveness. That's easy. Didn't we subdue a little ant queen? Feed her with a few divine universe golden stones and let her release very strong space power. Then cooperate with the explosion of the heavenly God sealing restriction and destroy the space channel between the Sun altar and Divine Desolate. Ling Yun said with charming smile. Indeed, I almost forgot about the little ant queen. Qin Yun looked inside the Nine-Sun Divine Spirit and discovered that the little ant queen is like a small white cloud flying around, playing very happily with Momo and Little Jade Rabbit. Chapter 2016. The spatial power condensed by space Xian ants are not restricted by Sacred Desolate's spatial law. As for why they have this kind of ability, Qin Yun still doesn't know for now. He only guessed that the spatial power released by space Xian ants is the most primitive spatial power. The spatial laws of Nine-Sun Heavenly Domain's Great Desolate are constructed from heavenly Dao power based on primitive space. Therefore, space Xian ants can ignore any spatial laws. Qin Yun let Ling Yun communicate with the little ant queen inside the Nine-Sun Divine Soul and let her condense a very berserk spatial power. Little Ant Queen straightforwardly agreed, but she needs to eat 2 Divine Universe Golden Stones. It is just 2 Divine Universe Golden Stones. This is nothing to Qin Yun. If everything goes smoothly, Little Ant Queen's spatial power can completely help him obtain the Sun Altar. It must be known that the new Sun Altar has been remodeled by Heavenly Law Divine Domain. It is much stronger than the previous Sun Altar. Because the previous Sun Altar was too weak, otherwise Qin Yun would not have taken away 2 of them. Qin Yun was the sect master of a Nine-Sun sect in the God King's life and possessed a Sun Altar. Therefore, he understands Sun Altar very well. When he was in the vicinity of the altar in the middle of the 6 cities, he walked around and observed it. He knows that the new Sun Altar has been remodeled to be very strong. As for the specifics, he still doesn't know. He will only know after obtaining it. Ling Yun said, Xiao Yun, Little Ant Queen, said she needs some time. She wants you to wait patiently. Qin Yun needs time to think of a way to break the Heavenly God Seal restriction. The Heavenly God Seal restriction is absorbing the berserk Nether Sun power released by Qin Yun. After absorbing enough, He will use his formidable mental power to control the Nether Sun power to burst out and destroy the runes of the Heavenly God Seal restriction. As long as the runes of the Heavenly God Seal restriction are destroyed, even if the Heavenly God Seal restriction is not destroyed, it will become much weaker. At that time, Qin Yun will have a way to leave the Heavenly God Seal restriction. I have already obtained the Sun Seed. It is the key to creating Primal Divine Sun. I hope Sister Rujing can quickly find Sister Kiru and the others. I need Sister Kiru's help to create a Primal Divine Sun. Qin Yun said. Ling Yuner somewhat anxiously said, Xiao Yun, I am very worried about Sister Rujing. We really shouldn't have let her act alone. There's nothing we can do. She's already like this, but we should be able to rest assured. After all, she's the snow goddess, and she even cultivated 2 very powerful spirits. Qin Yun said, furthermore, she also has the purple gold divine universe sword. Even if she encounters a very strong great sage, she can protect herself. Qin Yun wanted to go together with Xian Rujing, but she refused no matter what. She even said that men are not allowed to enter that place, so he could only give up. Won't the Heavenly God Sealing prohibition dissipate on its own if the Yang Seed is taken away? If you were to break open the Heaven Seal God restriction, wouldn't that Heaven Seal God restriction have no source of energy? Ling Yuner said, the Heavenly God Sealing prohibition contains a certain amount of energy. This formation absorbs energy nearby. If the Yang Seed is gone, it absorbs mine. If I don't have any, then absorb the Sun altars. If the Sun altar doesn't have any, then absorb the sacred desolate lands, said Qin Yun. Ling Yuner laughed. Xiao Yun, you really understand this formation. It seems like only you can deal with this kind of thing. There is no other way. I have been suppressed by the Heavenly Tao for so many years. I have gone through many reincarnations and still managed to live until now. I can't do it without some ability, Qin Yun said with mischievous smile. While Qin Yun is breaking the formation, Little Ant Queen is also condensing spatial power. He gave 2 divine universe gold stones to the Little Ant Queen and placed her in the 9 Yang divine soul pearl where the 9 dragons' heavenly origin array was located, allowing her to be in the middle of the array. This way, Little Ant Queen can quickly condense spatial power. Ling Yuner said, Xiao Yun, Little Ant Queen said that after she condenses spatial power, she can go play with MOMO. Why do these little things like playing with MOMO so much? Qin Yun said with smile. Who told MOMO to be so likable? Ling Yuner said with smile. Xiao Yun, MOMO is the high priest of magical fairies. How much do you know about this kind of fairies? Speaking of this matter, Qin Yun's expression became somewhat grave. He said, although this kind of fairies are called magical fairies, they are not evil devils at all. The reason why they are called this is because they have been demonized. Actually, magical fairies and space Xian ants are very similar. They are both primal energy fairies. Primal energy? Ling Yuner said, space Xian ants are fairies born from the primal space. Could it be that MOMO is the primal rune? Runes are very strange. I suspect that runes were not created by the Heavenly Tao, but an existence that existed even earlier than the Heavenly Tao. The Heavenly Tao is just using runes very well. Qin Yun said, in other words, the birth of magical fairies is earlier than the Heavenly Tao. Just like space, they're earlier than the Heavenly Tao. And the Heavenly Tao only sets the rules and maintains its operation. Ling Yuner said with smile, I thought everything was created by the Heavenly Tao. I never expected that space and runes were created earlier than the Heavenly Tao. It is very likely that after the appearance of space and runes, the Heavenly Tao was born together. The Heavenly Tao is a kind of operating law. After this operating law has its own consciousness, it is called the Heavenly Tao and gradually forms various connections with the living beings in this space. This connection is called fate, Qin Yun said with a smile. Of course, this is a speculation that I have pondered for many years. Qin Yun and Ling Yuner talked a lot. Although Ling Yun is the Nether Sun Tao spirit, The Nether Sun is extremely mysterious. Although she is the Nether Sun Tao spirit, her understanding of many things is not as good as Qin Yun's. Little Queen Ant has already condensed a ball of spatial energy. After Qin Yun placed the ball of spatial energy into the pill transformation heavenly furnace, he handed it over to Zi Qingcheng and others to control. The pill transformation heavenly furnace needed to absorb a lot of energy before it could transform into a pill. The more peculiar and powerful the energy within the furnace was, the more energy the pill transformation heavenly furnace needed to transform into a pill. Thankfully, Qin Yun had the 9 Dragons Heavenly Origin Array and the Divine Universe Goldstone, so he had enough energy to maintain it. On Qin Yun's side, he was also anxiously cracking the array. He still wasn't sure if there would be a huge explosion after he broke the God-sealing forbidden formation. Even if it was not triggered, if the spatial cannonball was strong enough, it could create a very strong spatial interference, cutting off the connection between the sun altar and the divine wilderness. If the heavenly sealing forbidden ground erupts with a powerful energy, the people inside the sun altar will run out. That would be more convenient. Qin Yun said, otherwise, if someone controls the altar from inside, it will be very troublesome. Ling Yun'er said, we can only give it a try. The spatial cannonball went very smoothly, but it also consumed a lot of divine universe golden stones. However, the energy of the cannonball can only affect the space. The destructive power is not very strong. If not for obtaining a relatively complete sun altar, Qin Yun would not have to go through so much trouble. A few days passed by. Qin Yun and Ling Yun'er's Nether Sun released energy and poured it into the most important runes of the heavenly sealing forbidden formation. Releasing this kind of energy requires very strong mental power. Even if they enter the heavenly sealing forbidden formation, they must maintain a connection with Qin Yun. Only by doing this can they control the energy explosion and destroy the runes. Even if other people know that they can break the heavenly sealing forbidden formation like this, it is very difficult to do so. Qin Yun has been sealed by the heavenly sealing forbidden formation several times before. After many years of trial and error, he finally found the method to infiltrate the heavenly sealing forbidden formation. Begin. Qin Yun secretly controlled the berserk nether sun power to erupt. The space inside the heavenly sealing forbidden formation suddenly trembled unceasingly. The most important runes of the heavenly sealing forbidden formation have been destroyed, causing the energy of the great formation to lose balance. It is now frantically running around. Not only was the God-sealing forbidden land trembling, but the surface of the 6 God King cities was also cracking. The power of the heaven-sealing God forbidden land was very terrifying. The surface of the 6 divine king cities had many huge array pillars from the divine wasteland. These array pillars could not only form a very strong array, but they could also protect the ground from being torn apart. However, at that moment, the grand formation formed by those spirit pillars was destroyed by the heavenly God sealing forbidden. The people of the 6 cities of the divine king immediately screamed and fled in panic. Even the people from the natural law divine realm were terrified because they could feel the explosion of the heaven sealing God seal. The people of the natural law divine realm were very clear about the power of the heaven sealing God restriction, so they did not dare to be careless. The ones controlling the sun altar were all heavenly beings of the natural law divine realm. At this moment, they were all escaping from the sun altar. The heavenly God sealing restriction had already gone out of control and was unable to form the sealing power. Therefore, Qin Yun easily ran out from the depths. When he came to the surface, he saw a small golden sun condensed above the sun altar. It was the energy from the divine wilderness. At this moment, the small sun was releasing a very strong energy, as if it wanted to suppress the fluctuations coming from the ground. Although the heavenly God sealing restriction has gone out of control, it did not explode. Qin Yun took out the 9 Heavens Dragon Line cannon and aimed it at the sky above the sun altar. After the white spatial cannonball was shot out, it transformed into a white light and shot out. It exploded in the sky above the sun altar and created a white light mist. It only exploded with white light and a gust of wind. It did not produce any powerful destructive power. However, the surrounding space is distorting and even being torn apart. The small golden sun at the top of the mountain-like sun altar suddenly disappeared. It means that the sun altar has already been cut off from the divine desolate. The power of the divine desolate cannot be transmitted to the sacred desolate, so it is impossible to control the sun altar to defend or attack. Success. Qin Yun used the light transformation sacred pupil and charged into the white light mist. He hid in the white light mist in the sky and controlled the nine-sun divine spirit to release a burst of intense light that enveloped the mountain-like sun altar and absorbed it into the nine-sun divine spirit. Not long after the space fluctuated, the sun altar suddenly disappeared. The people who escaped from the 6 cities of the Divine King are all shocked. The Divine King altar disappeared? Could it be that the Divine King of the Divine Desolate took it back? Someone said in bewilderment. Chapter 2017. The 6 cities of the Divine King had just been rebuilt, and even with the protection of the powerful array pillars that had descended from the Divine Wasteland, they were still unable to protect the entire city. This kind of huge city cracked under the continuous tremors, and the buildings that had just been built suddenly collapsed. After a large number of buildings collapsed, waves of sand and dust rose up. And the most shocking thing was that this time, the huge altar did not release any energy to protect itself and had even disappeared. The powerful Divine King altar was the most invincible existence in the sacred wasteland in everyone's eyes. Now that it had suddenly disappeared, it caused many people to panic, especially those powerful forces that were very close to the Divine King Palace. If the Divine King Palace could not block that mysterious attack, then they would definitely not be able to either. In order to calm the hearts of the people, the group of people from the natural law divine realm announced that the Divine King altar had only returned to the divine wasteland and told everyone not to panic. Actually, everyone in the natural law divine realm knew that there was a very strong heaven sealing restriction under the altar. The reason why the entire 6 cities of the Divine King was destroyed again was also because of the heaven sealing restriction. The reason why the entire 6 cities of the Divine King was destroyed once again was also because of the heaven sealing restriction. Regarding this matter, the people of the heavenly Tao sacred region all kept their mouths shut because this involved the Yang seed. This was because after a simple inspection, the people of the heaven realm had determined that the Yang seed was no longer underground. One of the 9 Yang seeds had suddenly disappeared. This caused a stir in the entire natural law divine realm. The group of heaven realm people could also feel a very powerful spatial energy at the scene. The knowledge of the heaven realm was also extremely rich. They could associate it with the spatial Xian ant and believe that the spatial energy came from it. The Yang seed was a very strong energy source, so it was normal for it to be targeted by the spatial Xian ant. It was just that they could not understand why the spatial Xian ant wanted to take away their altar. After Qin Yun took down the altar, he did not leave for the next few days. Instead, he wandered around the 6 cities of the Divine King and inquired about all sorts of information. After a few days of investigation, what surprised him was that the natural law divine realm actually denied that the altar had been taken away by someone. Instead, it declared that the altar had returned to the divine wasteland. Such a huge altar suddenly disappeared. If the people of Sacred Desolate knew what the altar was, the prestige of the entire Divine King Palace would be affected. Qin Yun found it funny because even now, the natural law divine realm still did not know what was going on. Qin Yun took out a communication talisman and contacted the old hunter Kong Chung. Kong Chung is from the Supreme Saint Palace. He went to help Qin Yin investigate the whereabouts of the Divine Inscription Mountain. After Xian Rujing found out that the 6 cities of the Divine King had been broken, she immediately rushed over to look for him, and even found him. Xian Rujing found out that God King's 6 cities had been breached. She immediately rushed over to find him, and found him. He felt that the people in the Divine Rune Mountain would come to find him after learning about the situation in the 6 cities. I heard some news, but I am not sure. Kong Cheng's voice entered Qin Yun's mind through the communication talisman. News. Heaven. Qin above the news. Qin said. News. Qin said. It's like this. I heard about that strange mountain that can move. This mountain likes to devour Sun God Stone. This strange mountain was once very close to the people of the Dragon Clan. Kong Cheng said, I received news that there was a group of dragons in the dragon race that stayed with this strange mountain for a period of time, and then they all disappeared. Disappeared? A group of dragons from the dragon race, and that group of strange mountains have disappeared? Qin Yun said in shock. It is very normal for the Divine Inscription Mountain and the dragons of the dragon race to mix together, because inside the Divine Inscription Mountain, there are several heavenly rune dragons. Moreover, there is also the little black donkey, great god Xianwu, as well as several formidable inscription beasts. However, such a powerful force had suddenly disappeared. That was a very strange thing, Kong Cheng said. I found out from the dragon race that they are also looking for the missing strange mountain, as well as their dragon race disciples. Qin Yun said with frown, apart from this, do you have any other news? Kong Cheng said, one of my friend of dragon race told me that they suspect that their missing group of dragons were captured by dark royal race. Why would dragon race suspect this? Qin Yun feels that it is possible because Divine Inscription Mountain is very strong. It can transform into Hercules with very strong battle strength. Hercules has been very active in many battlefields. It is very eye-catching. Adding that this is the lair of Inscription Gate, it is very normal for Dark Royal Race to target it. Any other news? Qin Yun asked. Not for now. I will continue to investigate. Little brother Fei Yun, I heard that many things happened in the 6 cities. Can you tell me about it? Kong Cheng said. Qin Yun told Kong Cheng about the situation in the 6 cities. Naturally, he did not tell Kong Cheng about the matter of him stealing the altar and sun seed. He only said that the altar is gone and that a very powerful energy burst out from under the 6 cities. Little brother Fei Yun, what do you think about this matter? Kong Cheng asked. Elder Kong, I heard a rumor. It might not be true. Do you want to hear it? Qin Yun said with mischievous smile. Let's hear it. Kong Cheng is also very curious. There's a treasure hidden under the 6 cities. That is why Divine Tiger's sacred ground wants to attack. Now, there's a problem with the treasure under the 6 cities, causing the altar to disappear. That altar did not return to Divine Desolate. Qin Yun said. Kong Cheng said in shock. Little brother Fei Yun, how did you get this information? I heard from an elder of the Supreme Saint Palace that there are things hidden beneath the 9 godly king cities. I helped the Divine Tiger Sacred Ground attack before, so I came in contact with them and learned about it from them. Qin Yun said. This is a very explosive news. It seems like I have to spread it out. Kong Cheng said with mischievous smile. All right, we will contact each other if we find anything. Well, that's right, I want to go to the Supreme Saint Palace. Qin Yun said. All right, come to the Supreme Saint City near the Supreme Saint Palace first. We will contact each other later. Kong Cheng said, then told Qin Yun a direction so that he can find it himself. Kong Cheng is also very anxious to spread the news he got from Qin Yun. He has a very large information network. If he provides this kind of information, he will gain a certain amount of prestige. Like this, people will be even more willing to provide him with information. Although the 6 cities of the Divine King have been destroyed once again, many people still lingered in the vicinity. They want to know what would happen to the 6 cities of the Divine King. Qin Yun went to the Supreme Saint City. On the way, he stopped and entered the floating cloud pagoda. He tried to contact the star god, but to no avail. A new Divine King has appeared in the Divine Desolate. He wants to contact the star god to ask about the situation of the new Divine King. This won't do. Qin Yun looked at the star god altar and shook his head. It seems like the communication channel between the other gods and the sacred desolate has been sealed. Only the love god can communicate with the sacred desolate. Ling Yuner said, Xiao Yun, didn't you just obtain the divine king altar? You can use it to transform it into the star god altar. This is possible, but it is a bit difficult. Qin Yun said, I first need to be able to control the divine king altar, at least make it a bit smaller. Qin Yun now began to think about how to use the divine king altar well. He poured his formidable mental power into the nine-sun divine spirit to investigate the altar. The altar is placed inside the nine-sun divine spirit and sealed by the nine-dragon heavenly origin formation. As a result, the divine desolate cannot sense the altar. After Qin Yun investigated the altar for a whole day, he finally found many ways to break it. What he needed to do now was to first remove the control of the heavenly law divine domain over the altar. This was a very crucial point. If the removal was successful, he would be able to control the altar and make it smaller. This way, it would be easier to take it out and dissect it for research. Inside the altar, there's a very strong consciousness. Because this consciousness has been cut off from the divine desolate, it has become very manic. Qin Yun had no choice but to release the nether moon and let it enter the altar to erase this consciousness bit by bit. This was not an easy task. It took Qin Yun several days to completely erase the consciousness inside the new altar, because that consciousness was unable to communicate with the divine desolate. It was a blank consciousness, but it had a very strong resistance. Fortunately, Qin Yun possessed the powerful nether moon, and he had a lot of experience in refining souls, so he was able to erase that consciousness that had turned into a soul. Done. Qin Yun can now control the new altar to become smaller. The new altar became the smallest, more than 10 meters tall. It was not like the previous altar, which could turn into a small table. Qin Yun could only go to the warehouse of the heaven-leaping shuttle and take out the new altar. He began to dissect and research it. Qin Yun is very interested in all kinds of complex runes. He was originally a very talented inscription master, not to mention the rich knowledge of runes from his past life's nine-sun palace king's memory. Whether it was him, immortal king Floating Cloud, or the king of gods, they all studied runes very much. Therefore, when he was researching the new altar, he discovered many important things. I don't need to modify it. I only need to connect the original star god altar with this one. Maybe I'll be able to contact Sister Star God. Qin Yun immediately took out the Floating Cloud Pagoda's star god altar. After the star god altar became very small, it became the size of table. And the new altar became a 10-meter tall, small hill. Qin Yun placed the star god altar on top of the new altar and took out some dragon tendons. He carved many complicated runes inside the dragon tendons to connect the two altars. After more than 10 days of torment, Qin Yun finally connected the two altars together and released the nine-dragon heavenly origin formation. Finally, he let the little ant queen come out and release her spatial power to activate the two altars to connect with the star god's divine position. The main reason why Qin Yun was able to do this is because he participated in refining the divine position before, so he has a very good understanding of space. Not long after, a charming woman wearing red armor appeared on top of the star god altar. Chapter 2018. Qin Yun had previously performed a large number of death sacrifices for the star god. Logically speaking, even if the star god did not go into seclusion, he should not be fighting. Little brother Xiao Yun, the power you sacrificed to me has been stored in my divine position. The star god sighed. Many unforeseen events have occurred in the divine wasteland. Logically speaking, other than the love god, the other gods have all lost contact with the lower realms. How did you contact me? The star god also knew that her connection with the lower realms had long been cut off. Qin Yun said, I took away a new sun altar, which is what they call the God King altar. I modified it and combined it with your star god altar. Then, I released my own spatial power and formed a spatial connection with your divine position. It sounds very complicated. You're truly amazing. As expected of the King of Gods. The star god smiled and said, Xiao Yun, the situation here is very complicated. You should be able to guess, right? Is this caused by the love god and the heavenly law divine realm? Qin Yun asked. He already knew that the imperial clan could not protect her, and the Nine Suns sect was from the heavenly law divine realm. The star god nodded. Yes, I'm being chased by the love god. This damned woman, she pretends to be high and mighty and filled with justice, but she's actually a snake and scorpion. Love god. Qin Yun clenched his fists, anger surging in his heart. Xiao Yun, I'll escape first. They'll chase after me. The star god said, There are many people chasing after me. There are Heaven Man, Nine Suns sect, Dark Royal race, and even the subordinates of the love god. Can't you hide? Qin Yun asked. No, they have a way to track me according to the fluctuations of the divine position. They can track me. The star god said anxiously. Xiao Yun, that's it for now. Goodbye. After cutting off the connection, Qin Yun immediately stopped the nine-dragon heavenly origin formation and took back the little ant queen. He is currently burning with anxiety. He paced back and forth in the large warehouse, looking at the new altar from time to time. Xiao Yun, they have a way to track the divine position. What's going on? Ling Yun'er said. Then can they track you? Other than me and the spatial god's divine position, they can track all the other gods. Qin Yun said with frown. Even Sister Kiru's moon god position and Sister Xian's slaughter god position are being tracked by them. Ling Yun was surprised. What's going on? Qin Yun said. This is mainly a type of energy left behind by the Heaven Creation God Palace in the past. It can be locked down and tracked by the Heaven Creation God Palace. If Big Sister Star God didn't mention it, I wouldn't have thought of this. It seems like the Heaven-creating God Palace has lost its power, or perhaps they have compromised with the natural law divine realm, which is why they cooperated with the natural law divine realm and the love god to track down Star God Elder Sister. Is there any way to block their tracking? Ling Yun'er said. Of course there is a way. Qin Yun thought for a moment and said, The most effective method is to put the divine position and divine universe golden stone together. Let the fluctuations of the divine universe gold stones disturb the energy within the deity's seat. This way it won't be tracked. Does Big Sister Star God have divine universe metal stones? Ling Yun said, Xiao Yun, you have many divine universe metal stones, but even the gods of the divine desolate land might not have seen them once. Qin Yun looked at the altar and said, I want little Queen Ant to help me a lot. Big Sister Star God is being chased by so many powerful forces, she definitely won't be able to hold on for long. I want her. Just now, he saw that the Star God looked very weak. She must have been on the run for many days. You want the little Queen Ant to bring you to the Divine Desolate? Ling Yun shouted in shock. Can you do it? No. With my current strength, I am still unable to pass through the spatial wall between the Sacred Desolate and the Divine Desolate. I will be torn to pieces. Qin Yun said, I don't need to go to the Divine Desolate. I just need to bring the divine universe golden stone to the divine desolate. As he spoke, he quickly took out the dragon eggshell and quickly refined a box. Then he placed 2 divine universe golden stones inside. Big Sister Star God will receive this box and place her divine position inside. Qin Yun also sealed the 2 divine universe golden stones slightly, preventing them from running around. And the next step was the most difficult, to get the box to the divine desolate. Qin Yun let the little Queen Ant come out and let Ling Yun communicate with her. In order to let the little Queen Ant release even stronger spatial energy, Qin Yun threw caution to the wind. He planned to use the divine universe amethyst and a large number of divine universe golden stones. He obtained a divine universe amethyst, but he rarely used it. 1 or 2 divine universe golden stones were placed inside the 9-dragon rune heavenly sabers that formed the 9-dragon heavenly origin formation. Qin Yun opened the nine-dragon heavenly origin formation. The little queen ant frantically released spatial energy and poured it into the two altars. Then, it cooperated with the spatial runes inside the heaven-leaping shuttle. Suddenly, a very strong spatial energy erupted and forcefully opened a spatial passage. Through the star god altar, Qin Yun can sense her and determine her spatial location. Xiaoyan, what did you do? Why is there a very strong spatial power? Star God's astonished voice came out. Big Sister Star God, I want to pass a box to you. Put your divine position in the box, and you'll be able to get rid of those guys tracking. Qin Yun said, prepare to receive it. After he finished speaking, he controlled the strongest spatial power to erupt. The spatial passage between the divine desolate and the sacred desolate suddenly opened for an instant. This instant consumed a lot of energy, but it was enough for Qin Yun to bring the box over. Star God is very astonished. She knows that Qin Yun has recovered the memories of the King of Gods, but she never expected him to be so powerful. He can actually transport things from the sacred desolate to the divine desolate. So powerful. Star God exclaimed in admiration. Big Sister Star God, that box can become very big. You can hide deep underground and absorb the sacrificial energy stored in the divine position. We'll talk about it after your cultivation is strong. Qin Yun said, inside the box, there is a purple gold divine universe sword. Thank you, little brother divine king. Star God is very happy. She originally thought that she was very helpless in the divine desolate. She never expected that Qin Yun would be able to help her in the sacred desolate. All right, are you not with Sister Xian's clone? Qin Yun asked. Not for the time being, but I will go find her. Star God said, I really need help right now. I have a few old friends in the divine desolate. Tree God and Heavenly Lion King are both. Qin Yun said, Heavenly Lion King can't even protect himself now. On the other hand, Tree God is very powerful, but he isn't willing to help others. Star God said, since he is your friend, I can go find Tree God. Tree God is a very big tree. It is very powerful. Qin Yun nodded and said, then you can cultivate first. All right, can I give you the divine flame leaves you want now? Star God said, it is much easier to transport things down from the divine desolate. I will open a passage, and you can bring them down for me. Qin Yun said hurriedly. Star God gave Qin Yun a lot of divine flame leaves. Divine flame leaves are very common in the divine desolate. Star God doesn't know what Qin Yun wants to do here. She won't be chased and beaten by others anymore. Star God can now happily hide away and cultivate. Feeling Qin Yun's help, her heart feels warm and she wishes that she could immediately kiss Qin Yun. Qin Yun obtained a lot of divine flame leaves. Each of them is the size of a palm, golden red and emitting flames. He put away the altars, looked at the large amount of divine flame leaves in the storage bag, and said with a long sigh, this thing is finally no longer rare. Xiaoyan, what do you want the divine flame leaves for? Ling Yuner asked. In the earliest period of the Nine-Sun heavenly domain, this kind of divine flame leaves were very rare and very difficult to grow. The Nine Desolate Land has experienced many nirvana rebirth. The soil of the divine desolate is becoming more and more suitable for growing divine flame leaves. Qin Yun said with smile, this kind of thing has many uses, but only I know how to use it. What use does it have? Ling Yun is very curious. It can be used to make fire. It can produce very strong divine flame. This kind of divine flame leaves can also be used to refine pills. It can be used to refine a kind of divine flame body tempering pill. Qin Yun said, as for the specifics, I still have to try it out. Back when I was still the Nine-Sun Palace King, I obtained a few pieces and realized that this kind of thing has many uses. Then there are so many capable people in the divine desolate. Are they unable to discover the use of the divine flame leaves? Ling Yuner said, the divine flame leaves must be used in conjunction with the nine-dragon heavenly origin formation. If there is a divine universe golden stone, it would be even better. Qin Yun said, back then, I had the 9-dragon heavenly origin formation and divine universe golden stone, but I didn't have the divine flame leaves. Ling Yun said with smile. That means to say, only you know the secret method to turn trash into treasure? Qin Yun faintly smiled and said, Indeed, I will be staying in Sacred Desolate for a period of time. I want to quickly become stronger. I will need divine flame, leaves along with divine universe golden stone. Xiao Yun, do you think love God will track Sister Rujing? Ling Yun somewhat anxiously said, They have a way to track God position. If Sister Rujing is tracked, it will be very troublesome. Qin Yun took out a communication talisman and contacted Xian Rujing. Sister Rujing, where are you? Qin Yun asked. I am on my way to Extreme Land. I passed by a city and found out that the altar disappeared. Was it your doing? Xian Rujing said. It was my doing. Immediately go to the Supreme Sacred City. I have something important to give you. Qin Yun finished speaking and informed Xian Rujing about Star God's misfortune. Xian Rujing said, I will immediately go to the Supreme Sacred City and wait for you. Qin Yun let out a sigh of relief, knowing that Xian Rujing is fine for the time being. Then he immediately set off for the Supreme Sacred City. Father is Fire Dragon God. He also has God position. Shouldn't he be in Dragon Race? I must go talk to him. While flying towards the Supreme Sacred City, Qin Yun is also thinking about Qinlong's matter. During the day, Qin Yun is inside the heaven-leaping shuttle, flying high in the sky and being illuminated by the intense sunlight. Suddenly, a talisman in his hand has a very big reaction. Qin Yun promptly took out the talisman. Earlier, he asked Door God to give a talisman to Space God. This talisman is used to communicate with Space God. Now that the talisman is reacting, it means that Space God has obtained the talisman from Door God. Qin Yun arrived outside the heaven-leaping shuttle and let the talisman be illuminated by the sunlight. Because their method of communication is through the sun, only he and Space God can use this method. Chapter 2019. Qin Yun was also very happy to be able to contact the spatial god. He said with a smile, Brother, are you in a good mood? How can I not be happy to be able to contact an old friend? The spatial god said with a smile, What's your situation in the Divine Wasteland? In the Divine Wasteland, it seems like you no longer have anything to do with it. Qin Yun said, It's best if I don't have anything to do with it. Anyway, I'm already tired of it. Now that they're fighting over these trivial matters, I'll just let them do whatever they want. After the 9 suns destroy the world, everything will start from the beginning. The spatial god was rather carefree. Qin Yun said, Brother, these fellows from the heavenly law divine realm want to take advantage of this opportunity to lead the entire 9 suns heavenly domain. This way, after the 9 suns are reborn, the new 9 suns heavenly domain will be completely under their control. This is something we can't stop. The spatial god let out a long sigh. What can we do? The current heavenly law divine realm is extremely powerful. No one can suppress them. As long as I go to the divine wasteland, I will definitely bring them down. Qin Yun said very confidently, Your previous life has already failed. They will not give you another chance. The spatial god said, Even if you come to the divine wasteland, you will definitely be suppressed. Even the powerful imperial race will not be able to resist them. Besides, the love god knows you like the back of his hand. If you come to the divine wasteland again, she will definitely make you suffer a crushing defeat again. This woman is very powerful. I think you will definitely fall into her hands again. The spatial god sighed. Let go. Let's leave the 9 suns heavenly domain together and travel the vast universe. Qin Yun shook his head. The 9 suns heavenly domain made us so powerful. We definitely can't watch the 9 suns heavenly domain be stirred up by those fellows. We must chase them away. Up to you. The spatial god sighed. Then has the space between the divine wasteland and the sacred wasteland changed? Qin Yun asked. The star god is unable to contact me. The heavenly law divine realm has taken action to control the spatial operations of the 9 suns heavenly domain. Their methods are much more brilliant than mine. After all, they have obtained the inheritance of the heavenly Tao and understand the laws of space better. The spatial god said, "Therefore, there is nothing for me in the divine wasteland." Qin Yun said, "Brother, do me a favor. The heavenly Lion King is in a bad situation in the divine wilderness. Help me find him and bring him to the tree goddess." "All right, that's simple," the space god said with a smile. "Brother, you are currently in the sacred desolate. How is the situation there?" Qin Yun told the spatial god about the godly Monarch palace and the Yang seed. After the space god heard this, he said in shock, "The 9 suns can actually give birth to the sun seed. Now you know how strong 9 suns are, right? The 9 suns are just like us. They all want to break free from the control of the heavenly Tao." Qin Yun said, "That's why the heavenly law divine realm is paying so much attention to the 9 suns' heavenly realm. Then you have to be careful. Since the sacred wasteland has a Yang seed, the natural law divine realm will definitely focus all its energy on the sacred wasteland." The god of space said, "I will be careful," Qin Yun said. "Then I'll go look for the heavenly Lion King now." The spatial god said with a smile, "Let's keep in touch if there's anything. Goodbye." Qin Yun put away the talisman and returned to the heaven-leaping shuttle. Just as he had guessed, the spatial god no longer had any influence in the divine wasteland. All sorts of spatial operations were interfered with by the natural law, divine realm, and modified. The law of space that the space god grasped could be said to be completely useless, which meant that his spatial abilities had been crippled. This was extremely cruel to the god of space, but he was very open-minded. The heaven-leaping shuttle continued to fly towards the supreme holy city. The supreme holy city was a very large city, and many of the businesses of the extreme Saint Palace's subsidiary sects and clans were gathered there. Many sects or clans of various sizes in the sacred wasteland would choose to merge with a powerful sect in order to find a strong backer. Especially in this kind of environment, they needed to unite even more to protect their common interests. If they merged with the Supreme Holy Palace or the Green Hong School, they would only need to hand over some resources every year, but they would be able to exchange for the protection of a great power. Currently, the situation in the sacred wasteland was very complicated. There were outer heaven realm and natural law divine realm interfering, plundering the sacred wasteland's resources. To the local powers of the sacred wasteland, the divine king palace built by the outer heaven realm and the natural law divine realm were all foreign powers. Furthermore, they were extremely tyrannical, occupying a large amount of their resources. The powerhouses of the sacred wasteland were not to be trifled with. Right now, they were all secretly discussing how to fight against the foreign powers, especially the outer heaven realm. The outer heaven realm and the dark royal race had joined forces, and they were also on the same side as the natural law divine realm. The divine king palace was also part of the natural law divine realm. Therefore, the local powers of the sacred wasteland were under great pressure because they felt that their interests were being threatened. There were also many powerful forces in the sacred wasteland. For example, the sacred wasteland dragon race had allied with the imperial clans, and there were also the local inscription beasts. There are also the 2 powerful sects of the sacred wasteland, the Supreme Holy Palace and the Green Hong School. In addition, there were also a small number of cultivators from the sacred desolate ancient era. There were also cultivators from the ancient era in the sacred wasteland. Although there weren't many of them, they were all very strong and were also a very strong force. Previously, when Qin Yun was in the Divine King Palace, the Divine King Palace had all sorts of bragging about how powerful the Divine King was and how they all yearned to join the Divine King Palace. But after he arrived at the Supreme Holy City, the people here were all cursing the natural law divine realm and the Divine King Palace. It seems like there are still many clear-headed people who were not fooled by the Divine King Palace. Qin Yun thought, that guy Kong Cheng was in the Divine King City before. He must have gone to scout for information. Ling Yuner said with smile. Although the Supreme Holy City is very big, much bigger than the other Divine King City, its defense is not very strong especially in terms of barrier, is far inferior compared to Divine King City. However, the entire city is full of vitality. There are many experts doing business here. All kinds of rich resources are circulating. After Qin Yun arrived at the supreme holy city, he strolled around the city for 2 days before Xian Rujing arrived. Qin Yun rented a courtyard in the supreme holy city and took out the floating cloud pagoda. After Xian Rujing entered the city, she used the soul-chasing talisman to find Qin Yun. Inside the 20th floor of the floating cloud pagoda, Xian Rujing took the box from Qin Yun. The box is made from the dragon eggshell of the divine universe heavenly dragon. There are 2 divine universe golden stones sealed inside. Sister Rujing, you can put the divine position inside. You won't be tracked. I am worried that the heavenly law divine realm people will track you in the sacred desolate. Love God's hands and eyes are everywhere. Maybe she already knows that we have arrived in the sacred desolate. Qin Yun said, "Many thanks." Xian Rujing put the divine position inside the box and then kept the box. You're going to search for the extreme inland by yourself. Is there really no problem? I have time now. I will go with you. Qin Yun said, "No need. You have more important things to do. There are still many altars waiting for you to collect. Those altars are the bridge between divine desolate and sacred desolate. You should be more clear about this than me." Xian Rujing said, "Qin Yun is very clear that divine desolate uses the altars to influence sacred desolate and collect a great amount of sacrificial power from sacred desolate. If sacred desolate people want to obtain divine liquid or other rewards from the altars, they have to perform sacrificial ceremony. There are 2 kinds of sacrificial ceremony: live sacrifice and death sacrifice. Who knows whether or not someone will perform sacrificial ceremony during the sacrificial ceremony. Moreover, after the sacrificial ceremony, love God will become even stronger. Therefore, if all the altars are taken away or destroyed, it will prevent love God from becoming stronger. All right, you must be careful." Qin Yun held Xian Rujing's hands, lightly sighed, and warned. Xian Rujing nodded and said, "You are the same. Then I will send you out of the city." Qin Yun laughed and pulled her out of the floating cloud pagoda. "I came from far away to see you. Moreover, I don't know when we can meet again. Do you really want to part with me like this?" Xian Rujing coldly looked at Qin Yun. Qin Yun is startled, then hugged her, kissed her for a while, and said with a smile, "Sister Rujing, you clearly don't have any feelings. Why are you still? I am already your woman. I am only reminding you to do what you should do with your woman." Xian Rujing groaned. Qin Yun now finds it even more difficult to see through Xian Rujing. He said, "Thank you for your reminder. Put on the mask. I will send you out of the city." Xian Rujing coldly glared at him and groaned. "Are you in such a hurry to drive me away?" Qin Yun is startled again, then said with smile, "All right, let's cultivate Sun and Moonheart Sutra 3rd level together. No need to cultivate together. The next time we meet will be very long. I will properly accompany you." Xian Rujing finished speaking and slowly took off her outer clothes. Qin Yun suddenly felt that after this cold ice goddess was deprived of her feelings, she instead became extremely passionate. Just that this passion is somewhat unfathomable. Just like this, Qin Yun and Xian Rujing spent a short period of sweet time together. Qin Yun sent off Xian Rujing outside the city. After seeing her off with his eyes, he recalled the sweetness and gentleness of this ice goddess and can't help but feel perplexed in his heart. Has her feelings recovered? Qin Yun is very doubtful in his heart. Maybe when her feelings were regenerated, she felt very unfamiliar with feelings, but also very familiar feeling. That's why she is acting like this. Ling Yuner said with smile, "Get used to it." Qin Yun took out a communication talisman and contacted Kong Chung. Kong Chung is already in Supreme Holy City. After Qin Yun contacted him, he immediately came to the city gate to meet Qin Yun. Kong Chung is a great sage, so he has quite a bit of status. He has a flying car that can fly above Supreme Holy City. Qin Yun is now inside Kong Cheng's flying car. He is heading towards Kong Cheng's residence. "Old Kong, I remember you said that you have a friend from Dragon Race. I want to meet him. Can I? Qin Yun asked. He also wants to meet Qin Long. Of course you can. My friend is also in the city. He found out that I obtained Divine Dragon Tooth and immediately came over, Kong Chung said with smile. Chapter 2020 Divine Universe Ice Dragon. Qin Yun was slightly surprised and said, "Is the Divine Universe Ice Dragon in the Sacred Desolate? Where is it? When did it appear?" Kong Chung chuckled and said, "Brother Fei Yun, I knew you were very interested in the Divine Universe Ice Dragon. I don't know the specific situation right now. Let's talk about it when my friend comes." Qin Yun had 2 Divine Universe Dragon Balls in his hands. If he met the Divine Universe Ice Dragon, he might be able to get a 3rd one. The flying carriage flew towards Kong Cheng's residence. Along the way, Qin Yun learned a lot about the Sacred Desolate from Kong Chung. Kong Chung had cooperated with Qin Yun before, and they had even done something big, so they had established a certain level of trust between them. Elder Kong, can the Supreme Saint Palace and the Azure Great Sect join hands to fight against the Heavenly Law Divine Realm? Qin Yun asked. It's hard to say. If a conflict really breaks out, the Supreme Saint Palace and the Azure Great Sect will definitely suffer. Of course, the Outer Heaven Realm and the Heavenly Law Divine Realm will also feel pain. Kong Chung said, "At present, the Outer Heaven Realm and the Heavenly Law Divine Realm do not dare to touch our bottom line." Qin Yun nodded and asked again, "What is your bottom line?" The Supreme Saint Palace and the Azure Great Sect both control many areas. They cannot act in our territory. Otherwise, we will attack. This is our bottom line, Kong Chung said. The sun has descended. So many resources are in the Sacred Desolate. These creatures should belong to the 9 Suns' heavenly realm. They were given to us by the 9 Suns to pass the tribulation. What right do the Outer Heaven Realm and the Heavenly Law Divine Realm have to take our resources? Qin Yun was also very angry when he talked about this matter. That's right. That's why we are all very angry, but what can we do? They are all very powerful. If a war breaks out, we will also be courting our own destruction. Kong Chung sighed helplessly. Therefore, we can only prepare to avoid being destroyed by them. Qin Yun hated the Outer Heaven Realm the most. The Outer Heaven Realm clearly discriminated against the 9 Suns' heavenly realm and treated it as a lowly heavenly realm. But now that they saw the rich resources of the 9 Suns descending, they all came over to snatch them. Qin Yun was once the king of the gods. Protecting the overall interests of the 9 Suns' heavenly realm was also his mission as the king of the gods. Therefore, when he thought of the Sacred Desolate's resources being robbed by outsiders, he felt extremely furious. This is the territory of our Supreme Saint Palace, so they don't dare to act recklessly. At most, they just walk around and don't dare to rob our resources. Kong Chung said. Before long, the flying car landed in Kong Cheng's residence. Kong Chung brought Qin Yun to a living room. Qin Yun was in the living room, drinking the fruit juice Kong Chung had prepared for him. He patiently waited for his dragon friend. Kong Cheng's dragon friend soon arrived. He was a healthy old man with a goatee and wore a gray robe. This elder was very spirited and had a bright smile on his face. If not for the faint dragon mite on his body, it would be impossible to tell that he was a dragon. Seeing this old man, Qin Yun said in shock, "Senior Long Bei?" The old man looked at Qin Yun and said with a frown, "Young man, I seem to recognize you. You are. Senior, I never thought that we would be able to meet again after parting at Dragon King Manor. You actually came to Sacred Desolate so early." Qin Yun said with smile, "Brat Fei Yun. Long Bei is the dragon Qin Yun met in 9 Dragon Devil Prison in Spirit Desolate Dragon King Manor. Back then, he was an immortal dragon and was sealed. Later on, Qin Yun helped him break the seal, and he returned to Immortal Desolate. You are my benefactor," Long Bei said with smile. "We can still meet again. It is truly unexpected. It has been so many years." Kong Chung said with smile. So you two know each other. Very good. Very good. Senior Long Bei, when did you come to Sacred Desolate? Qin Yun asked. I have been here for several years. Long Bei said with smile. He knows that the young man before him is Qin Yun. When he was in Immortal Desolate, Qin Yun was very famous. Even in Sacred Desolate, Qin Yun had a bit of fame. Kong Chung said, Old Dragon, Brother Fei Yun wants to know about the Divine Universe Ice Dragon. Quickly tell him. Since you're not an outsider, don't have any misgivings. Long Bei nodded and said, It is like this. Our dragon race found traces of the Divine Universe Ice Dragon in Sacred Desolate. We suspect that the Divine Universe Ice Dragon is in Sacred Desolate. In Sacred Desolate? This is a very formidable Divine Universe Dragon. It should not be in Sacred Desolate. Qin Yun said with frown. Could it be that the Divine Universe Ice Dragon's cultivation has been weakened? No. There is a sun-sacred land in Sacred Desolate. That place is very strange. Even if the Divine Universe Ice Dragon possesses very formidable Divine Dragon power, it can still be inside the sun-sacred land. Long Bei said. Long Bei spoke of the sun-sacred land. Qin Yun recalled many things. He is very familiar with 9 Desolate's sun-sacred land. There is indeed a very strong sun-sacred land in Sacred Desolate. Of course, Sacred Desolate's sun-sacred land is very special. It is different from Immortal Desolate. Then did your dragon race discover anything about the sun-sacred land? My Supreme Saint Palace has been searching for it for many years, but has not been able to find it. Kong Chung said. Qin Yun knows about the sun-sacred land. It is hidden very deeply. Even if he wants to find it, it will be very difficult. However, he still has a way to find it. I don't know for now. In short, my dragon race has already dispatched many dragons to search for the sun-sacred land. Long Bei said, Senior, why does your dragon race want to find the Divine Universe Ice Dragon? I heard that the relationship between the Divine Universe Ice Dragon and your dragon race is very faint. Qin Yun asked. Long Bei is somewhat surprised and said, Little brother, how do you know about this matter? Although the Divine Universe Dragon is a dragon, it is very different from us dragons. It can be said that they have no blood relation with us, so our relationship is very faint. Qin Yun said with smile, This is what I heard. I also know that some dragon race reveres the Divine Universe Dragon very much, but very few of them put in so much effort to find them. That is because our Sacred Desolate dragon race has encountered a crisis, and we need the help of the Divine Universe Ice Dragon. Long Bei shook his head and sighed. He looked at Kong Chung and said, Old Kong, you should know about the crisis our dragon race is facing, right? Kong Chung nodded and said, Your Sacred Desolate dragon race triggered heavenly punishment some time ago, causing many dragons to encounter heavenly tribulation. Qin Yun is startled in his heart. It is very rare for an entire race to encounter heavenly punishment, unless they did something that angered heavenly rules. Heavenly Tao is already dead. Only ruthless heavenly rules remain. Now heavenly rules are very strict. Qin Yun is also very curious as to why the Sacred Desolate dragon race triggered heavenly punishment. What did your dragon race do? Qin Yun asked. Normally speaking, even if you resist the heavenly law divine domain, you should not trigger heavenly punishment. Kong Chung said, Little brother Fei Yun, this old dragon will not say anything because this is Sacred Desolate dragon race's secret. They must have done it for some reason. They did not hesitate to risk triggering heavenly punishment. Long Bei shook his head and sighed. Two friends, I really can't say. I hope you can understand. No problem. Qin Yun said with smile. Senior Long Bei, Immortal Desolate Dragon Race should be merged with your Sacred Desolate Dragon Race. Did they receive heavenly punishment? They did not. Long Bei said. Oh, that's right. Among the dragons from Immortal Desolate Dragon Race, is there a very strong fire dragon? Qin Yun asked. There is. That guy is very awesome. He is very knowledgeable about heavenly punishment. He gave us many suggestions. Long Bei said. Qin Long has already joined the dragon race. He did not use the name Qin Long. Instead, he used Fire Dragon God as his title. I know that guy. Can you deliver a letter to him? Qin Yun said with smile. No problem. Long Bei nodded. Qin Yun handed over a letter to Long Bei and said again, roughly when can I deliver the letter to him? Qin Long used to be Fire Dragon God. He worked for Heavenly Dao. He has a very close relationship with Heavenly Dao Pawn Shop. 3 days at most. Long Bei said, all right, I will leave first. My dragon race has a group of missing dragons. I want to go find them. Old dragon, didn't you say that your missing dragons might be related to Heavenly Law Divine Domain? Kong Chung said, directly go to Heavenly Law Divine Domain to find them. We suspected this before, but now we think that they must have found Sacred Desolate's Sun, Sacred Land, and entered it. Long Bei said, the group of missing dragons were, with the Divine Inscription Mountain. There's a group of very powerful inscription beasts inside Divine Inscription Mountain. They have a certain connection with Sun. Maybe they found Sun Sacred Land and brought a large group of dragons there, then entered Sun Sacred Land and couldn't come out. Qin Yun's eyes lit up. He immediately thought of this possibility. There's a way to find Sun Sacred Land. Qin Yun suddenly said, little brother, tell me about it. Kong Cheng knew that Qin Yun was not a simple person. After all, a person who possessed the Divine Dragon's Tooth and dared to provoke the Divine King Palace and the Heavenly Law Divine Realm was definitely not an ordinary person. Long Bei also looked at Qin Yun, waiting for him to speak. Qin Yun looked at Long Bei. He said with smile, Senior Long Bei, how is the relationship between your sacred desolate dragon race and Divine Tiger Sacred Land? Our relationship is not bad. We also sent people to congratulate them for their beautiful performance in the God King's 6 cities. Long Bei said, Sacred Tiger King is a very strong inscription beast. He knows where the Sun Holy Land is. Qin Yun said, inscription beasts have a very peculiar feeling towards Sun Sacred Land. Don't your dragon race have Heaven Rune Dragon or Sun Rune Dragon? Long Bei shook his head and said, our dragon race doesn't have inscription dragon. We also hope to have one. After I return, I will report this to our clan leader Sacred Dragon King and have him discuss with Sacred Tiger King. Then hurry up. If we can find the Sun Sacred Land, we might be able to find a powerful helper inside to fight against the natural law divine realm. Kong Chung laughed. Long Bei also hastily left the supreme holy city. He came to find Kong Chung to exchange some useful information. He did not expect that after meeting Qin Yun, he would have such a great harvest. Chapter 2021. After listening to Qin Yun's speculation, Kong Chung jumped in fright. Little brother Fei Yun, you are really just guessing for fun. It shouldn't be true, right? It's too scary. Kong Chung said, as far as I know, Divine Universe Dragon was created by Heavenly Dao. 4 sacred desolate dragon rays to be able to create it. This is really amazing. I think it's possible. Qin Yun said, Heaven Creation God Palace, Ling Tian City, Heaven Suppressing Sect. These guys have mastered a lot of knowledge in this area. Go and investigate the people from the Heaven Creation God Palace and see if they are with the sacred desolate dragon race. Qin Yun knows this kind of thing the best. The new palace master of Heaven Creation God Palace is Elder Situ. This Elder Situ is also a relatively reckless guy. He controls the 9-dragon heavenly origin formation of Heaven Creation God Palace, has Divine Universe Golden Stone, and has seen the power of Divine Universe Evil Dragon. He will definitely have some ideas. Kong Chung immediately took out a communication talisman and sent a message to others, asking about Heaven Creation God Palace. When Qin Yun was in the 6 divine king cities, he learned that after Heaven Creation God Palace, Ling Tian City and Heaven Suppressing Sect people came to Sacred Desolate. They caused a lot of commotion. They just arrived in Sacred Desolate. They definitely chose to join a more reliable power, and Sacred Desolate Dragon Race is a power that suits them very well. After Kong Chung contacted his friend, his face revealed a shocked expression and said, just now, the old dragon told me that there are indeed people from Heaven Creation God Palace in Sacred Desolate Dragon Race. Let's wait patiently for news. Sun Holy Land should have already been discovered, and there will be movement soon. Qin Yun smiled and said, Elder Kong, arrange a place for me. I want to rest. Kong Chung brought Qin Yun to a quiet courtyard behind his mansion. Qin Yun took out the floating cloud pagoda and entered it. On the 20th floor of the floating cloud pagoda, Qin Yun took out the Sun Emperor inscription spirit. The Sun Emperor inscription spirit is sealed, but Qin Yun went to the Heavenly Dao pawn shop to exchange for a talisman to unlock the seal. Xiao Yun, you originally planned to use the Sun Emperor inscription spirit to subdue the Sun Seed, but now it seems that you don't need to. Ling Yun said with a smile. Yes. Therefore, I want to start fusing with the Sun Emperor inscription spirit. This will allow me to better control the Sun Heavenly Rune. Qin Yun took out the talisman and stuck it on the jade. That piece of jade suddenly burst out with an intense light. The light was very hot. Qin Yun and Ling Yun quickly controlled the Nether Sun and absorbed the Sun Emperor inscription spirit into the Nether Sun. One of the benefits of Nether Sun is that it can fuse with this kind of soul body very quickly. Not long after, Qin Yun fused with Yang Emperor inscription spirit. He tried to carve a few sun runes, and the process was extremely fast. Originally, when he was the Nine-Yang Palace King, he was already very familiar with sun runes. Now that he has obtained the Sun Emperor inscription spirit, his speed of carving sun runes became even faster. Xiao Yun, is the Yang Emperor inscription spirit the most powerful inscription spirit? Ling Yun asked. That's not it. The most powerful inscription spirit is Heavenly Venerable inscription spirit. Qin Yun said with smile. Legend has it that only with Heavenly Venerable inscription spirit can one master heavenly runes. There is also a legend that the Heavenly Dao obtained the Heavenly Venerable inscription spirit, so it can control formidable power. Star, moon, and sun. These three kinds of inscription spirits have been gathered by you. In addition, there is also the violent fire beast king. You have more and more inscription spirits. Ling Yun laughed. Actually, having star, moon, and sun is enough. Qin Yun said, It's a pity that I don't have enough strength right now. Otherwise, I would be able to refine a large number of star, moon, and sun inscription spirits together with Yuma. Ling Yun said, Xiao Yun, Yuma's little mirror is really amazing. What exactly is that thing? Is it really her martial spirit? Her little mirror is a sun spirit. The 9 sun goddesses all have very strong sun spirits. Yuma, Sister Kiru, and Sister Bingxing all have very strong sun spirits. That is something they were born with, and it is within their 9 souls and 9 spirits. Qin Yun said, So that's how it is. No wonder they're so powerful. Ling Yun laughed. Not only do they have sun spirit, they also have moon soul. The 9 suns bestowed them sun spirit, and the mother moon bestowed them moon soul. Qin Yun said with a smile, Their latent power is very astonishing. Next, Qin Yun began practicing his inscription battle technique. He has already drawn 10 lines of runes. Coupled with the special ability of the Heavenly Eye, he can also draw runes with one thought. With just a thought, he can condense runes on his palms. However, this will consume a lot of mental power, and it will easily expose the powerful Heavenly Eye. In Qin Yun's previous life, he already had a lot of knowledge on inscription. Coupled with his talent in this life, it is even more extraordinary. He practiced for an entire night and is very satisfied. Xiao Yun, you should be considered a sacred inscription master now, right? Ling Yun said. Qin Yun nodded and said, I don't need to painstakingly learn inscription in the future. I have too many powerful runes in my memory. I only need to familiarize myself with them. As my cultivation increases, I will be able to draw even more powerful runes. Xiao Yun, what's going on with this Heavenly Dao divine rune? Ling Yun asked again, This thing has been in your body for a long time. I still don't understand. I suspect that this is a rune that was split off from a powerful heavenly rune. As for what kind of heavenly rune it is, I still don't know. Qin Yun looked at the 9 sun divine spirit and said, I want to start absorbing the mental power inside the sixth pearl. I need to open the sixth pearl as soon as possible. Ling Yin said with smile, Xiao Yun, since you have come to Sacred Desolate, you should be able to open the sixth pearl. Could it be that the things inside the sixth pearl are of great help to you in Sacred Desolate? I don't know. Let's open it first and take a look. Qin Yin said with smile. Ling Yin is very curious about the things inside the sixth pearl. She said, could there be a great beauty sealed inside? How is that possible? Qin Yin shook his head and said with smile. He is absorbing the mental power inside the sixth pearl. Why is it impossible? Back then, Sister Yao Feng inside was a 9-son divine maiden and also a god of slaughter. She was a super great beauty. Ling Yin said, moreover, she is very charming and very good at flirting with you. Qin Yin chuckled and said, maybe there's a little black pig, little black dog, or a little black cow sealed inside. There was a little black donkey that appeared before. Xiao Yun, don't be a wet blanket. I want a great beauty. I think there must be a great beauty inside. Ling Yin has gone crazy thinking about beauties. While absorbing the mental power inside the 9-son divine soul, Qin Yin took out the Imperial Heaven diagram and spread it out on the ground. Xiao Yun, we have already returned from Buried Heaven Land. What use is this Imperial Heaven diagram? Ling Yin asked. Yin Imperial Heaven diagram is very mysterious. MOG obtain it from Heavenly Law Pawn Shop. If we can see through the Imperial Heaven diagram, we can master Imperial Heaven technique. Qin Yin said. Then how can we see through it? Ling Yin said. I also don't know. Qin Yin shook his head. After I see my father, I will ask him. He stayed in Heavenly Law Pawn Shop before. He must know something. If there is no other way, I can only go to 9 Nether Realm and find MOG. Qin Yin stored away the Imperial Heaven diagram and concentrated on absorbing the mental power inside the sixth pearl. There's a lot of mental power inside the sixth pearl. If Qin Yin wants to completely absorb it, he will need at least a month. He also contacted Xian Rujing from time to time and asked her about her situation. Xian Rujing only gave a simple reply every time, saying that she is very safe and is currently heading towards Extreme Land. In the blink of an eye, 10 days passed by. The speed of absorption is faster than I expected. In another 5 days, I will be able to absorb it all. Qin Yin faintly smiled. In just 10 days, I have absorbed so much mental power, my 9 souls and 9 spirits have recovered a lot. Qin Yin originally wanted to continue absorbing, but he heard Kong Chung shouting outside. Little brother Fei Yun, old dragon is here. He brought some explosive news. Kong Chung yelled with smile. If you are interested, come out. Qin Yin very much wants to know. He can only temporarily stop absorbing mental power, walked out of Floating Cloud Pagoda, and stored away. Old Kong, what news did Senior Long Bei bring? Qin Yin asked. Important news. I will bring you to a secret room. We will discuss the news inside. Kong Chung said with smile. Qin Yin asked Long Bei to deliver a letter to Qin Long. He also wants to know Qin Long's current situation. After arriving at the secret room, Long Bei took out a communication talisman and handed it over to Qin Yin. Fire Dragon God gave this to you. This communication talisman is used to contact Qin Long. Qin Yin did not immediately contact Qin Long. He put away the communication talisman and asked, Senior Long Bei, do you have any explosive news? We have confirmed that Divine Universe Ice Dragon is in Sacred Desolate. He is inside Sun's Sacred Land. Moreover, he is sealed inside Sun Sacred Land. This matter was confirmed by Sacred Tiger King. Long Bei said. Sacred Tiger King already knew about this matter? Qin Yun asked. Indeed, he didn't want to tell us where the Sacred Land is. Moreover, he said that they want to protect the Sacred Land and not allow anyone to enter. Long Bei said with sigh, Little brother Fei Yun, do you have any method? Kong Chung said with mischievous smile, Little brother Fei Yun, you surely have a method. I have more or less guessed who you are. You're the sect master of Inscription Gate, right? When you were in Immortal Desolate, your fame spread all the way to Sacred Desolate. Qin Yun fought against heavenly beings and killed divine universe evil dragon in Immortal Desolate. All the major powers of Sacred Desolate are very clear about it. It is not strange for Kong Chung, who is in charge of gathering information, to guess that it is Qin Yun. Qin Yun said, Senior Long Bei, since your dragon race already knows the whereabouts of Divine Universe Ice Dragon, then Heavenly Law Divine Domain, Dark Royal Race, and Outer Heaven Domains people must also know about it. Sacred Tiger King won't be able to defend it. Tell them to quickly join hands with your dragon race. I will immediately return and inform Sacred Dragon King. Long Bei nodded and said, I have a bold conjecture. Sun's sacred land seal is gradually weakening. That is why your dragon race can sense the divine universe ice dragon inside. Qin Yun said, Indeed, it seems like Heavenly Law Divine Domain has already noticed. Long Bei said. After Long Bei left, Qin Yun said to Kong Chung, Senior Kong, I will go into seclusion for a period of time and prepare to enter Sun's sacred land. Brother Fei Yun, the disappearance of the altar in the 6 Divine King cities is very strange. Is it related to you? Kong Chung said with smile. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.